Oh, yes. At any rate, hey, the comic book friends, I'm Travis. It's time for another comic book roundtable. And I got once again, my esteemed guests here with me today. You all know Comics to Comics. How's it going, sir?
Going pretty good. How's everyone else doing?
And Matt with today's serial.
Hello, Internet!
And it's at some point tonight we're supposed to be having Sleep Reader 666. Damien's supposed to be joining us, so we may see him suddenly pop in here, or we may see me looking at my phone trying to figure out how to get him an invite when he has problems finding it. So we'll see how that all goes. Anyway, happy to be here and talk some comics. We're already chuckling about some of the comics, so we'll see how it goes. I think we're gonna have a wide variety of opinions on some books tonight, so it should be lots of fun. So we're gonna start the night out by talking about Marvel, because I don't have to talk because I didn't get any Marvel books this week. This is my not that any week is heavy Marvel, but this is certainly my light week of Marvel, and that I don't have any. What came out?
Well, with New York Comic Con, they had a lot of announcements, so you'll be able to talk about that.
Yeah, we got stuff to talk about for sure. But let's talk some books. What you guys pick up some Marvel books? I know you did.
Well, Matt and I both picked up this, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I was happy to see Miss Marvel, but she kind of regressed as a character in this. I don't know if you're reading that too, Matt, but it kind of felt like she was just the character she was in issue 1 again. And I wasn't sure what I thought about that. She had been kind of maturing in the series, like she fangirled over Wolverine, but towards the end of that kind of team-up crossover, she kind of became more, I'm one of them now. And in this, she comes into contact with Spider-Man, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's Spider-Man! Oh! Well, I didn't like that too much.
To be fair, it's Spider-Man, not Wolverine. Come on, man. There's a little more.
He's a bigger deal.
What kind of killed me was the art in this issue. Like, the page where they introduce her, like, they show her pulling out an iPhone, then the next frame, it's like she's holding an entire computer monitor in her 2 hands. Suddenly the scale just went wonky. And I don't know... Yeah.
Right there. I'll talk some more so you can
put
see
it down a little more. You're almost right on the panel. Yeah. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a continuity error.
She upgraded to the new iPhone like that.
Yeah.
I just... part of it is kind of weird because I guess part of her powers is she can shapeshift. I haven't read her comic at all, so this is my introduction to her.
This is not a good introduction.
All right. It got slotted up.
So is that the problem? Is that the problem that Slot just didn't address her right?
Well, I think it's done right that it's not Spider-Man going into her comic to boost sales. You know, it's them going, check this character out. By the way, she has her own book. You get a lot of that.
Okay.
And they do tie in the Tarragon and things like that, you know, from her tie into the Inhumans, which really hasn't happened in her comic yet, but they did bring that in.
Okay.
But really, it was more or less just, hey, check out this character. It wasn't. I didn't feel like there was a necessity. You could have had.
So no big deal that I didn't get this, because I thought about it, because Janet Comic Book Girl, she was talking about ordering this issue because, of course, it had Ms. Marvel in it, and we're all really keen on the Ms. Marvel book, so we thought, well, maybe we should get this, and I decided, no, I don't need that random issue of Spider-Man. So no big deal not to have picked up that random issue of Spider-Man. Okay.
The funny thing is, I don't think you'd have been all that lost. The thing. I think this could sit by itself, and you wouldn't be. I mean, there's some aspects that you'd be like, "Who's this character? Who's that?" But overall, I think you'd be able to read this by itself and be fine.
Okay.
Well, this also felt like more like an old school Marvel book. Like it's just a character popping in for the story, and I'm all for it for this story. But the very line where she said, "I totally ship Spider Marvel. I mean, Wonder Man's cute, but," and I was like, "All right, she's here now, and when she's gone, it'll probably be better." Like, it just didn't catch me at all.
And it's really odd. And speaking of old school Marvel, this gets broken down very interestingly. So that story kind of goes to be continued, and then they go immediately. They kind of have an ending to be continued, right there, and then immediately you're launched into the Spider-Verse side of this that they're trying to get you to be interested in, which isn't working. I don't know much about this, and I've been reading Amazing from the start, so I feel like I had to have been reading something else to get this aspect of the story. I didn't really know what was going on in that.
Well, so they're just doing a Spider-Verse, so it's like any incarnation or any idea of an incarnation of Spider-Man they're just playing with. And this was if Spider-Man was Captain Britain in a way in a different other world. And because it's Captain Britain, the other world, it already kind of plays into that idea already. And they kind of merge those ideas beautifully. I think the big missing link is if you didn't read the beginning of Straczynski's Spider-Man run, you don't know who Morlun is. Yeah. You don't understand who the villain is, and so you don't understand the threat. Because he trashed Spider-Man in a way the Terminator trashes society. Like, it's just... You just kicked him across the city. It was no big deal. Like, he got out of it by this, teeth scraping on the cement. Like,
well, you didn't read the Spider-Gwen issue, but this character, the Captain Britain Spider-Man, shows up at the end of that, just randomly. And he says, "Oh, she'll do nicely." So I wasn't sure if he was a much bigger part of this whole Spider-Verse thing, and that's where I kind of got lost.
Oh, well, I just kind of took it as was, but I think you just made Marvel $4 for me.
Yeah. Oh, well, he just shows up at the end, so I mean, yeah.
I'm pretty sucked in. I don't know, man. I'm digging it, but this is totally like fan service for me. A Spider-Man multiverse, I'm pretty down with the idea.
It seems interesting, but I went for a long period of time without reading Spider-Man, so I'm somewhat lost. But
Well, did you start Amazing Spider-Man when they restarted?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've been reading that, you know as much as I do because there's nothing
really?
up to it before that.
Because I was wondering, because I felt like I was missing something because I didn't read Superior. My roommate did, and I kind of paged through it from time to time, but.
The only issue of Superior that deals with it is that issue of Superior that came out since the reboot.
Okay, and I didn't touch that, but...
Oh, well, that actually explained a lot of it, so that one issue is probably picking up.
All right, I'll check it out.
Yeah, the one issue I think you need to find to kind of key into a lot of this.
All right, yeah, because I was kind of lost in a lot of that.
Yeah, if you didn't read that, I think, because that explained a lot of what was going on.
Do I get to trash a book this early in?
Go for it. Light it up.
Did anyone else pick up Axis #1?
I swore off events for Lent.
Let me see. No.
Oh, well, you missed out.
Oh, wait. Hold on. I got something.
Magneto?
Check this out. So there's this thing, and then you can twist it around.
Oh, whoa. Whoa.
That's magic.
He's like a classic magician.
And then I didn't buy the comic.
Take my money. I ran into the same issue I had of why I dropped Uncanny Avengers. So for those of you who don't know, in this event, Red Skull has essentially become Onslaught, and if you weren't reading comics in the 90s, Onslaught was kind of a big deal. Probably the most powerful being on Earth, and almost killed the Hulk at full strength when the Hulk was kind of released fully, and he nearly killed the Hulk. Nearly killed every person on Earth, and now he's in the Red Skull. And the Red Skull is making this Nazi regime on Earth, has work camps and all of that, and it seems super serious. He's causing wars all over the planet. People are dying left and right. And then you get these heroes coming in, and they are all stand-up comedians at their first open mic night. They are all making puns the whole time. So you have this serious event happening over here. Everyone else is just making sure they get their little line in right before they go into action. I don't mind if Iron Man does and Iceman does and characters that are known for that does, but every single one of them, it felt like whenever they came into the scene, had something smart and witty to say. None of them were like, holy shit, the world's coming to an end. Every one of them was like, oh, let me do a James Bond line as I come into the... It did not mix well at all. And it took you completely out of it, and you couldn't take it seriously, much like when he took Charles Xavier's brain in Uncanny Avengers. It was just so out of left field, and everything was so serious up at that point, and then just to see him plop his brain on top of his head, like, you're just kind of like...
I was going to ask, is he still wearing Xavier's brain slopped on top of his head?
It's in there now, see? So
it's inside now?
Yeah, he's Onslaught now. But I could not take it seriously, and I think this would have been excellent if they would have had the protagonist taking the severity of the situation seriously. They don't at all. It feels like it's just like another day at the park for them, like nothing bad's happening. And yet he has concentration camps and things like that going on, and you're kind of like, why the fuck are they joking around?
What's the deal with all these Sorry.
Here, I'm going to find one. I'll let that...
Oh, that's horrible.
Sorry, so the image that popped in my head when you said that earlier was like Jerry Seinfeld as like Superman coming, and then Louis C.K. as the Hulk coming in, and then like blowing up as Ghost Rider. I'm like, I'm down with this.
No. I said open mic.
I know, but open mic stand-up comedian.
They are horrible puns. I think the only person that really takes the severity of the situation seriously is the new Captain America, Falcon. Everyone else, and Thor, but everyone else is just like, let me yuck it up while we take on this big threat, and it just takes you out of it.
Thor feminized yet in that book, or that?
No, this is he's depowered, so he just has an axe, but he's still a part of the Avengers.
An axe and a flying goat, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A flying goat?
Yeah. Oh, you didn't read that? It was actually pretty decent. It was pretty decent, actually.
I don't read Thor.
I don't either, but I gave it a shot, and it was pretty decent.
He has a pet goat. You know, doesn't he have like two? He has two goats that pull his chariot or whatever.
Yeah.
So he left. So he left on one of the goats.
Yeah, I will say about that issue though. Why did they make it a mystery of who Thor was going to be when it was a character that no one knows? Like, it would have been interesting if it was a known character. I guess if you've been reading Thor, she's known. But to pull people into the book, because I think that's kind of the idea.
Wait, so who is Thor? Who is the new Thor?
It's the mother, like when Odin was gone, the lady that took over.
Uh-huh.
The blonde lady. Yeah, so it's someone that, like, it would have been cool.
That's a for sure thing that it's her?
Okay, you got me there, but it pretty much is.
I'm just asking because because the last time we did the show and we talked about Thor, people had some guesses, and then lots of people in the comments said that they thought it was going to be the All Mother or whatever the heck her name is currently. I'm just guessing it's All Mother, but anyway, so there were some guesses to that, but nobody really it isn't definitive, right? We haven't actually literally seen her with the hammer going. It's me.
What happens though throughout the issue when whoever becomes Thor, but I'm pretty sure it's her. So he's on the moon and he hasn't spoken since he got depowered, and she's kind of eyeing the hammer the whole time. So I mean, they're really making. So if it's someone else, that's a total twist, and she's being kind of talked down to the whole time and things like that, and she's kind of like.
That's cool. I was just curious. Because I didn't know if something else, another comic come out that had 100% said this is who it is yet. We haven't actually seen that yet. I mean,
I hope it's Lady Deadpool.
I'm assuming you're right, but yeah, Lady Deadpool. She's a blonde, right? Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Well, that would have been more interesting if it would have been some kind of known, like Carol Danvers or someone like that. I know they wouldn't do that because she has her own thing going, but
does she right now? Is she still around?
Yeah, she's still around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Captain Marvel? Yeah.
So you had one more that you picked up because I can't say anything. That was the problem. I can typically be like, well, I liked this aspect of it. I didn't even like the art in this. I will say this, though, that it has on Batman, which was also at the same price. This was a complete thing. There was no backup. It was from beginning to end all about this. That's one problem I had with Batman.
It was crap from beginning to end.
Yeah. So there. That's so good about it.
It was consistent crap, but it was, yeah.
I'll give credit for that.
Right on.
Did you get any other Marvel?
That event is all written by one person, right? It's not a hodgepodge of creators.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's Remender.
Okay.
Remender. Okay. So, any other Marvel?
You got one more, don't you?
Yeah, I do, and it was good. It was Hawkeye versus Deadpool. I like to think of it as Hawkeye and Deadpool. No, this is really freaking cool, man. Like, it addresses the fact that Deadpool has a family now. They're playing with the Black Cat aspect from the Spider-Man thing going on.
Yeah.
and they're dealing with this insane asylum, and all of them are dressed up as superheroes because it's Halloween, and they're all roided up, and they have to fight them, and they feel kind of bad about it. And then you get the other Hawkeye in here being all, and this is just a fun book, and they keep it to the scale of what they're dealing with. They're not trying to make it epic. They're not trying to make this big blowout deal. It's just this crazy story dealing with this little thing that was lost that leads to a conspiracy in the city. And the first issue was 000, which is the one big problem I have with this book. This is issue 1, but it's really issue 2. That's just why.
Because it's funny and ironic.
Yeah. The weird thing, though, is that Hawkeye's deaf now. And so, like, Deadpool has to lift his mask to talk to him. But there's a lot of scenes where, like, all this crazy stuff's going on and Hawkeye and Deadpool are talking. And it's like, how does that work?
You can read lips pretty quickly.
Yeah, you can read lips, but your back's turned.
And Deadpool has a mask, right?
Well, that's what I was saying, is he lifted it up so his mouth is showing.
Okay.
And there was a great joke in here where someone looked at Deadpool, is like, why didn't you dress up as Freddy Krueger? And he gets really depressed. He's like, what?
Oh, that's terrible.
That's funny. That's funny.
And it came from Kate. I think you'd actually read this book. I don't know. This one has a lot of heart in it, and that was the same thing about the Spider-Man one, though. The Spider-Man issue this week read like old school Marvel and had a lot of heart to it. And I'm like, God damn, this felt right. And it was a week where I really needed some superhero popcorn, and it lifted my spirits. So this week I really needed this, so I was all about it.
But okay, this is my problem with that issue. I didn't even read it. They sold out a Batgirl. I'm at my shop. He holds that up and he goes, "But have you heard of this?"
like those two have any
not to spoilers for the webcast. Yeah. You could have made a better decision and gotten that issue.
I know, but they are not comparable.
There's no way.
They're both superhero comics. They're not comparable to the fact that one's good.
Oh, come on.
I could say that about a number of them, though.
I was going to say, he could have grabbed any book off the shelf, which is what it sounds like he did.
No. To
give you an alternative.
This guy is constantly wearing Deadpool shirts.
He's one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
What? One of them?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, just give you a hard time now.
I have one Deadpool shirt too, which makes it really funny.
No, you just wear it anytime I'm around. Okay.
This guy has everyone they've ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just funny though. You told me that his alternative to Batgirl was Deadpool. I was like, wow, I don't even begin to see how that works.
Look, if a teen girl's looking for a comic book, the first thing I throw at them is Deadpool. It's the most relatable.
Really?
But he's not a teen girl.
Who's a joke?
Yeah, no way. Come on, think about it. No, I can see it.
Oh, God.
How many thumbs down do we got now? Anyway.
I have no idea. But T-Rex is on, and she loved Hawkeye versus Deadpool. So there you go.
Woo! Show your audience.
You got someone in common.
There's a bunch of them out there. So.
I know.
It was a good book. If you just read it, gave it a shot, open your heart.
It sounds funny. I've started a lot of Deadpool and haven't been able to finish most of it, so there you go.
Well, this one's honestly part Deadpool, part Hawkeye. Like, if you like the Hawkeye book, I think you get something. It's not the Aja art, which...
Yeah.
Well, right.
But it keeps the tone of the Hawkeye stuff going, too, with Deadpool interceded. So I really feel like this book earns its title, if you will.
Yeah. But, I've kind of fallen out of love with that Hawkeye run, so I would have avoided it on that, too.
Only got a few more issues of that left.
Yeah, exactly. Look how you're looking at that.
Yeah.
I got a few more to endure.
Ouch.
I don't know. I'm just gonna blame editorial and move on.
Yeah.
Should we talk New York Comic Con's announcements about Marvel?
Yeah, that'll end as a fizzle. Yeah, let's do that. So we don't have any other Marvel books. Let's talk about some of the stuff that was announced. Now, to be quite honest, I've had a long weekend, so I've had time to just kind of sit and watch stuff go by as far as news goes. And I was doing okay for a while. Got about halfway through today, and I just got fatigued. I couldn't keep up with the stuff that was going on. So, I'm by no means are we going to probably hit everything unless you guys know something that I don't know. But Marvel announced quite a bit of stuff, it felt like. Now that I said that, I can't remember a lot of it. But it sounds like they were announcing quite a bit of stuff, and some of the other companies didn't sound like they announced anything unless I missed something. But one of the first things that I remember coming up was Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to do Secret Wars for...
the fourth time?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, the fourth time, because there's Secret Wars 2, then there was Bendis' Secret Wars, which was the second.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's whatever this is going to be, and I didn't really hear much about it except Marvel Secret Wars. So I guess that means they're launching a new toy line. It's going to tie in.
I've never gotten into those.
I'm trying to figure out if I can find a...
But, did you hear what a lot of people were saying about that?
No.
Picture.
They were basically saying that this is going to be the reboot.
Oh, they're going to use this to do what? This will be
the universe.
This will be the Marvel now, or do you think are we talking literally
their new 52?
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Oh. Fight breast cancer.
I don't know how well you guys can see that picture. I can't find a very big one, so I apologize for not being able to find a better graphic. This is what they put up as the teaser at the con.
I think it's gorgeous, actually.
Which is it's an awesome picture. Don't get me wrong, that's cool. The art's cool on it, whatnot. But it's really curious to start looking at the picture. Okay, first and foremost, right up front on the left-hand side, you've got Captain America, who doesn't have wings and isn't African-American. And back there, right behind him, you've got Thor, who obviously is not a woman, and he's swinging a hammer that's throwing lightning and whatnot. So...
Still a transsexual.
Okay.
I'm over here.
Yeah, but my question is... That's 2015 at some point, right?
Yeah.
So what? We got a year that these two books are going to have these, woohoo, let's celebrate the fact we put these different people in these... What I'm thinking is it's going to be something similar to a multiverse type situation. So you think those are Captain America and Thor from some other universe?
Because Miles is prominently right there. Miles Morales.
But everybody keeps talking about how they're going to move Miles Morales sooner than later to our continuity.
Yeah, but I think that might even be a trigger point to this, because it sounds like it's coming out fairly early in the new year.
Well, if they're honestly using this as a reboot thing, they're going to want their classic iconic characters in there, and honestly, like, the other books could continue with Black Captain America, She-Thor, Evil Iron Man, I guess. That's what I heard.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And then this miniseries could, honest to God, be separate and not tie into those books. That is a possibility. That has been done before.
This isn't a miniseries, though. This is 12 issues, isn't it?
Well,
isn't it going to be just like the old
series? Sorry,
okay.
I don't know.
I mean, isn't it going to be just like the old Secret Wars, where it's one a month for a year?
Ugh.
Well, yeah, but then they could take a year and then finish out those other books and then do their relaunch if that's what they're aiming for.
I guess. To me, it was a curious piece of art to throw up, because to me it just feels like it immediately then makes you go, well, how seriously are they taking Lady Thor, and how seriously are they taking a new Captain America? Obviously not very seriously.
2 years that was done. Like, the minute they announced that, we knew that had like a 2-year lifespan.
Because of the movies. But this makes it even less than 2 years, is what I'm saying.
Not because of the movies, just because.
Come on. No. You don't think the movies take priority over anything else? And when those movies come out, hold on. When those movies come out, they want a comic out there that matches the movie so that they can go, and we got this too for you.
Hey, they
Guardians
can
of
put
the
Chris
Galaxy.
Evans in blackface. It could happen.
Jeez.
Holy cows.
Hi, Damien. How's it going?
Put down the
Holy-
grape juice.
Good. Hey.
Wow. Yeah, quit drinking the grape juice, without a doubt. So I just, like I said, for me that's one of the curious things about it. I mean, but okay, now since the New 52 has come out, just about every time Marvel announces some event or whatever, everybody says, "Oh, this is going to be the reboot. This is going to be when they pull the plug. This is when they're going to be when they flush the toilet and start all over again or whatever." Hasn't happened yet. I don't think with Secret Wars it's going to do it either.
No, I don't either. But that's kind of what they.
Granted, I assume that people will come back from Secret Wars. If it's anything like the other two, people will come back from Secret Wars. There'll be some fundamental changes. They'll use that as another rationale to fix some stuff or change stuff or bring Captain America back and Thor back. To me, it just seems unfortunate, though, for them to make this big hoopla about these diverse characters that are going to take over these roles, and it feels to me like we knew it was. Yes, I know it was going to be finite, but now it feels very short. It feels very truncated.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, them putting that art up now does really ruin kind of the big movement that they're doing. So.
I hate most of the internet comic book communities, so I don't know how big the backlash was for those, but I understand there was quite a backlash for those changes, and so maybe they're kind of kowtowing to that. I don't know.
But you don't hate
Really?
YouTube, right?
Oh, you have no idea. No, I'm talking like go on.
He hates Matt and he hates me, but not Travis, right?
Well, nobody hates Travis.
Yeah.
Go on
Oh,
Newsarama.
Jesus.
Look at anything they announce and go down in the comments, and if you're not vexed by the end of it, you're
Yeah.
a saint.
Well, yeah. So outside of internet trolls, I mean, how are people really responding? I don't know. I think that they honestly could treat this book, The Secret Wars, as its own deal as they continue with those other characters for a while. Doesn't mean they
It
will.
would be
You know
it'd be
they're
the
not
smart
gonna.
thing. Yeah.
You know they're not going to. When was the last time Marvel did an event and it stayed its own thing without poisoning the rest of the well, as it were, for those of us who don't like event books and what they do to
Your
the rest of
tone
our books?
tells a story.
It does, doesn't it? Now, don't get me wrong. I loved Secret Wars when it came out. Thought
Which
it was
one?
the first one.
Okay.
The first one. Loved it when it came out. You know, we had DC's first big event book, and we have Marvel's first big event book. They were both awesome. The idea of throwing these villains and these heroes on a planet and having them just beat the hell out of each other for 12 issues was cool. And I was down for Spidey changing costume and all of that. That was all well and awesome and fine. What is it? 25 years later, 30 years later, whatever it is.
I did not love those events. I was too old already.
Yeah.
Those were the little kid events.
Right.
I mean,
And that shocks me.
In grade, no, not grade school, but anyway.
Junior high, high school, high school, yeah.
In college, so.
But I figured you dig those because of you get that many villains, that many heroes in one place. It's got to be cool.
I even, by the time, whenever they came out, if I was 22 or something, I knew it was kind of a joke, and I moved on.
Well, also, the Bendis Secret Wars actually, for all intents and purposes, didn't exist, didn't happen, because I don't think it's been mentioned or talked about in any other book since.
I didn't even
know
affect
anything at the time. What?
I didn't even know there was one. I didn't know that Bendis did a Secret Wars. News to me.
Well, don't read it, but
I don't plan on
it
it.
exists.
Well, you stopped them just in time.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, they have done that, and that was 15 years? God, how old am I?
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. But
we all date ourselves.
it hasn't had any real consequences to anything. It was kind of its own thing, and it didn't really affect anything else, which is kind of what I think events should do in a way. It's just
well, I
be over
understand. I understand that by the time if it's an earth-shattering event, by the time the event is done, it should affect the universe. I'm okay with that. But while it's happening, it should not railroad other people's plots and ideas that they have going on in their individual books. If I want to participate in the event, I read the damn event book. if I don't want to participate in the event book, I shouldn't have to have it leak into the other stuff that's around it. That's my opinion on it. And then if after it's all said and done, if it fundamentally changes a character or whatever, hopefully the writers that are writing the regular book have had time to adjust their plots or whatever and organically move to whatever that is, not just suddenly we're ripped into some other multiverse doing whatever. I don't know.
Like the Killing Joke.
Right.
It seems like there's two events that trigger change and then events that reset the change back so that you can have everything the way it always was in the good old days.
And that's what this Secret Wars is going to be, huh?
That's what I think.
It seems that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the one that triggers something forward?
Secret War.
The first one?
Yeah.
The first one?
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man got a black suit.
Hulk broke his leg. Colossus and Kitty Pryde broke up.
That was tragic.
The last time the Wrecking Crew had any importance in the world?
It's a big event.
It was.
I loved the Wrecking Crew when I was 12.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I
Awesome
think it's
idea.
a cool idea. Represent the proletariat, you know.
Oh.
Are you saying that was subtle criticism of something else? Really?
Okay. So what else was announced out of the con about Marvel? What else is going on?
They announced a bunch of new books, but I don't have them in front of me.
Was there a new weekly Deadpool book?
I wouldn't be surprised. There's a Wolverine weekly. They're coming out with a weekly, so they're following in DC's footsteps, and there's going to be a Wolverine weekly. So he's going to be dead for... Anyway.
Maybe it'll be a 52-issue funeral.
Yes.
A 22-issue funeral. That'd be awesome. Well, we'll throw another clod of dirt on.
I said Marvel, not DC.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I mean, no, I forgot what team I'm on. No, Marvel's terrible.
We're so positive tonight. At any rate. So
I think a Marvel weekly should double ship, so we'll get 52 issues in half.
Oh, good Lord.
that
The sad thing is that's funny, but at the same time you're kind of like, I could see them doing that. 2 weeks.
So it comes on a Monday and a Friday?
yeah.
Yeah. A double weekly.
So Spider-Verse, double weekly.
Let's see if I can
Double
find
size.
them real quick.
All drawn by Mark Bagley.
They should just go.
Descends into madness.
They should just buy a page of the newspaper and just put it out as strip again if they're going to do that, right?
There already is a Spider-Man strip that comes out, right?
Right. Was there a Wolverine strip for a while?
I don't want to see Wolverine strip.
What?
Even
So-
there was a Conan comic strip at one point.
Yeah.
When
Really?
Hasbro was doing Conan.
Was that ever collected?
They never reprinted that.
Oh wow!
But they did announce another Deadpool title.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
It's another like Rise of the Dead one, I thought.
It would be news if there wasn't a new Deadpool title, right? There's always at least 2 going at any given time.
Seems to be
3 anymore, I think.
Even Matt can keep up.
I keep up begrudgingly.
They might be bringing back X-Men 2099. I didn't think anyone read that.
What? Who were the X-Men 2099? There's some
I never
comic
read the-
trivia.
How's that trivia?
Does anyone know it?
I have a couple of issues. I'm not even joking.
I have an issue somewhere, I'm sure, but I couldn't tell you who was on the team.
Punisher 2099. That was a...
Punisher 2099 was actually interesting, but X-Men 2099 was a bunch of misfits no one cared about, right?
So are we buying into the rumor that they're going to quit making mutants? There's going to be no more mutants?
Oh, I read that article. Yeah, I totally believe it because they don't want to feed the.
Because as soon as they make a mutant, then it's Fox can use it, right? Under their movie stuff, so they don't want to.
But they're not going to use it well, so why do they care? I don't know.
I can't disagree with
they're
that.
so angry at Fox. The higher up people just want them to screw Fox any way they can,
Right.
It's so
whether or not it makes any sense.
So
Because
that.
Go ahead, man.
It bugs me so much because the reason Marvel is where they're at now is because of Fox. Those movies initially pulled Marvel out of their bankruptcy. Marvel's bankruptcy was not just a bankruptcy. It was an economic nightmare. There is an actual book out there about just this topic. And it has baffled economists. It actually baffled them so much that there were so many shell companies wrapped in shell companies that were tied to Marvel initially that they just wrote them off to balance the books to figure it out because they're like, we can't unravel this chain, so we're just going to cut it off. And then that cut their bankruptcy down because they didn't go further and further down the hole. And making those movies and Fox agreeing to help to do that, which was an essentially huge big risk because they're dealing with a company that was under federal review.
Right.
And now they're like, oh, well, now those are our... Screw you! Those guys helped you out when you were this close to being dead. Like, I don't think people understand how close Marvel was from going under.
And it's not Marvel anymore.
Not a good risk at the time for movies. So
right. But the thing is, this isn't Marvel anymore. This is Disney.
Right.
And
Disney,
Disney is vicious when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I'm sure they have all kinds of issues with Fox all over the place. But
well, and Fox did their cartoons back in the day. Gosh darn it! Like,
but they're turning the Inhumans into the X-Men, right? So they want to make new Inhumans and make the X-Men fade into the background.
Right. Mutants are disappearing, and they're all going to be Inhumans.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the answer.
And that's probably why X Factor got canceled.
Which is really a shame. This is one of those, careful what you wish for things, in my opinion. As a child, of course, as I've said many times, the idea that they'd make movies or television shows or any of that out of any of the superhero stuff was like a pipe dream. It was like, oh, that'd be so awesome. Now that it's happened, now we're in the legalese of the whole thing. They're kind of, it feels to me like right now Marvel via Disney, if you want to blame Disney for it, is fundamentally changing what for me was the core of Marvel because they're in this kind of pissing match with Fox over the characters, basically mutants, making them Inhumans now as opposed to mutants. To me, seems criminal. Shutting down the Fantastic Four comic book. That's the superhero comic book. That's the superhero team comic book, isn't it? I mean, it's first. Whether you're a fan of the Fantastic Four or not, to me anyway, as a superhero fan, what it represents, pulling the plug on it over a pissing match is to me just crazy.
Well, they'll be back though.
Well, at some point, but even to temporarily do it to me seems, I don't know, unless they think they're going to get more publicity out of it by doing it, then I don't know.
I hear you, but at the same time, with the way the Fantastic Four has been going, I think letting that property live for a while and letting a creator who has a good idea for it come back and revitalize it could be a blessing in disguise if that's the way it ends up going.
Well, that might be true in one case, the Fantastic Four, but it's not good reducing the X-Men or turning Green Arrow into the Green Arrow TV comic book.
Hey,
so the overall point that Travis is making is very, very true. The more these other media drives comics, the less good comics we're going to get.
Well, that's a good point, Travis. I'm glad you came up with it.
Well, I'm just mouthing what we're all thinking, and everybody else is mouthing at some point too. So
people keep saying that now, but if you look at the history of Superman, it was driven by multimedia before it was ever a big deal with it. Like most of the Superman mythology comes from anything but the comics, and that is the superhero. I mean, and it's true.
Well, but maybe Superman would be better if it hadn't.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that because
the character that's lasted 75 years, I think that's a rough gamble.
Well, yeah. So you do have a point of sorts there, but we could also look at Batman and what the media's done to him. Were you happy when all Batman was like Batman 66?
Batman 66?
When the Batman TV show influenced the way Batman was done.
I love the Batman movie and some of that Batman show, and maybe not all the comics were great, but never have I said all the Batman comics are good, so that's kind of a... But I mean, like, the Batman animated series, where would Batman be without that?
That's true.
Yeah, I suppose the Fantastic Four was improved by the invention of Herbie the Robot over the instead of using the Human Torch. Sorry, I can't think of any other examples besides Superman that you can see a possible positive effect.
I get that they're doing it to kind of be a dick to put it away, but it's better than them trying to reinvent the Fantastic Four in some way like they did in the 90s several times. Several times. They'd kill off the Human Torch, they'd bring in a new team, call them the new Fantastic Four, and so this is not new.
Right. The Fantastic Four thing doesn't, I mean, it bugs me, but it doesn't bother me as much, and I don't understand how they think pulling the plug on it has any real effect other than just to say, we're going to try and take our toys and go home.
Yeah.
I am shocked, though, that anybody would have signed a contract in some sense or another that says if we create any other characters in the Marvel Universe, and we call them a mutant, that somehow that gives Fox free right to use them. That's shocking to me that there would be language.
Well, at the time they signed the contract, they probably didn't realize how big it was all going to get, and they just said, sure, you can have all the X-Men are mutants, you can have them mutants.
Well, did you see that movie? It was terrible. Anyway.
Well, but not necessarily, right? Like, the rights get weird, especially when you look at Quicksilver and Silver Witch, right? Like
Scarlet.
Because both companies are going to use those characters.
What?
Because they're Avengers and they're X-Men.
Yeah,
right.
Both companies are using those characters.
Right. And so how does... I mean, that's allowing weird.
Well, they're allowing them to use them as Avengers because they're now calling them Inhumans as opposed to mutants.
Well, they can't call those two Inhumans, right? Like,
they certainly can. Why can't they?
All it takes is a write on a page and one little square up in the corner.
I guess
they're Inhumans, and lo and behold, they're Inhumans.
Well, but I didn't think, because the split happened before this whole thing went down, which was this month, where Marvel made that edict.
Yeah.
Well, right, but they made it before this. They just chose now to announce it.
Well, fair, but I mean, those characters have been mutants for such a long time, and I don't think they've been declared as Inhumans yet.
No, they haven't in the books.
No, but they're going to be, though. I mean, that's the impression we were left with.
No, if you're reading Inhuman right now, that's what they're. It's a global thing going on right now, so you can tell they're going to try and suck in. And, yeah.
Hey, maybe they'll bring Wolverine back with Terrigen Mist, and then he'll be an Inhuman, and they can take him away from Fox.
Again, anytime you've been joking tonight, it's been like, no, they could seriously be doing this.
And he'll respell his name with a Y instead of an I. And
oh my! Some '90s love. All right.
Wolverine.
I mean, this sounds silly, but I'm sad. I used to love the Inhumans back in the day, and I'm kind of sad they changed the nature of the Inhumans and made them into X-Men, because I like that they were this small, limited group.
Yeah.
And now to make them infinitely expandable just ruins the whole idea.
Well, now you like X-Men.
And they haven't explained really why Black Bolt did it. That's kind of been the big kind of hook of this whole series. Essentially, Black Bolt took the mist and just spread it all over Earth. And you can almost see this is just them incorporating mutants.
Well, the panel will drift up, and then you'll see the strings tied to him, and Mickey Mouse will be playing like a puppet.
That would be brilliant.
I don't think that'll be in a Marvel comic, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere else.
Yeah, okay, so any other Marvel news we want to talk about that came out of that or otherwise, because we've kind of gotten amusingly way off on... I think we get off on this subject almost every week, on the whole how the other medias are jacking with their comics in some sense or another.
Look, where would the Flash be without the Flash TV show? That's all I'm saying.
A comic book sitting on the shelf that I don't read anyway, so I guess, yeah. So, Damien, did you have any Marvel books? Did you have any Marvel books, Damien, that you wanted to talk about?
Not that came out this week.
Okay. Let's move on to DC, shall we?
Oh boy.
I've heard of it.
What do we want to talk about first? I know there's at least two books that will probably be somewhat heavily discussed. I know that for a fact. Here, let's do this. We'll make it easy. I'll talk Earth 2. I think. Did you pick?
Yes.
You picked up Earth 2.
Not only did I pick up Earth 2, I picked up.
I have the monster version.
I didn't see that.
So that is the monster Superman and
that kind of looks cool, actually.
And the Flash and Green Lantern. Yeah, I got the monster variant.
It looks like an old Animal Man cover.
How much did that cost you?
The same.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
They're the same.
Yeah.
That's how variant covers should be, darn it.
Right.
And DC does a lot of those free ones, like the selfie covers. And...
Yeah, there's basically an A and a B cover, and of course the month of October they did monsters, so I picked up quite a few of the monster ones because they look like fun. So, did you say you picked this up, Damien?
No, I'm so turned off by Earth 2 because of Future's End. Actually,
right.
I didn't pick up either.
Right, and me, I got this, and I've decided I'm not getting the weekly. What's the Earth 2? The Earth 2 weekly book is called
World's End.
And it started this week also, right?
Yes.
I picked it up, yeah.
Okay, so my issue is you read the first couple pages until you get to the title page.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, down in a box down the bottom, it says this issue takes place after the events of World's End #1. So, I said I wasn't going to pick up the weekly book. I'm just getting this, and I'm hoping it's not going to mess with my book and whatnot. And 4 pages in, I get a big F you in the face over the fact that I don't know why they are where they're at, because it happens after the events in a weekly book that I have no intentions of picking up.
Well, you don't have to worry, because it took place after the events, but it didn't mean anything.
It still irritates me that they tell me that something happened after something I don't know. To me, it's frustrating to have that happen.
Was the story readable by itself?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I may go pick it up tomorrow if you guys liked it. I just sort of was dubious.
I read both, and yeah, of course it took place after the events of World's End, because this first issue of World's End was nothing more than a recap of everything that happened in Earth 2 up to this point. So yeah, it took place after. There was nothing.
Right. So basically, if you weren't reading Earth 2, that other book catches you up on the 27 issues or 26 issues that.
Yeah. The only thing that's kind of new about it is more of them all meeting up, which then starts off with this. So.
Right. My only confusion was, of course, all of a sudden these characters are together. Some of them weren't together before. You've got Huntress and Power Girl are now teamed up with the group. There's obviously some conflict because. Thomas is saying that he's Huntress's grandfather, and she's like, "That's crap. Thomas is dead. That's how come my dad act like a lunatic his entire life is because you were dead." So she's not buying his story. But I felt like I obviously missed the initial confrontation between them.
I think that's from World Finest, though.
Yeah, it is. Well, no, you missed 4 pages.
Okay.
I just counted. You missed 4 pages. I mean, I will. It sounds like I'm trashing this, but it was kind of neat to have this all together in one thing, and it actually filled in some plot holes and things like that in the continuity of Earth 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't hate it, but yeah, you missed a total of 4 pages. But I do think that's kind of indicative of what they're going to be doing with the series overall. I think it's going to be this. This is going to be Paramount, and Earth 2 is going to kind of be a backup.
I didn't hate this issue. We've gotten kind of new writers filling in on and whatnot, and I thought that was okay. Art's great. I think it's interesting that that this Superman from this world has a connection to Power Girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. But if it's gonna feel rough, like it skips, like it's a record with scratches on it or something,
It looks like it's going to be that way.
I'll drop it. I'll end up dropping it.
But what I found interesting about that is, okay, so it shows them leaving and then Krypton going. Where was Clark when that was happening?
Yeah, don't know.
He just wasn't there?
He got sent off early. He got sent off earlier or something? I don't know.
Yeah. I just found that interesting.
Yeah, the Superman wasn't in it at all. Where was Kal-El? How did he... Because he existed. He existed, so...
what bothered me about this the most is as I was reading it and it was recapping everything, it had a lot of the events of the Trinity before they die in the first run in with Darkseid, and I was like, why not make that a series? They're so different that I wouldn't mind seeing that Trinity from Earth 2 and their adventures leading up to that.
Isn't that kind of where we were all at when they first announced Earth 2, that we were kind of, if they were going to put out the Trinity, if they were going to make them radically different, whatnot, and then we all were shocked because, of course, the first issue, they slaughter the Trinity right off the bat?
Yeah, it made me kind of want a series like that, though. Where I think this is going, honestly, I think this is going to kill off Earth 2 because I think people by now are either hooked on to Future's End, Eternal, or both, and they're not going to be willing to take on a third one. So,
a third weekly? Yeah, that's rough. I was so shocked when they first announced that. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't know how that's going to all pan out. So, I didn't hate the issue, but I can see where it feels a little rough, and if it's going to continue to, where I'm going to miss beats because they're someplace else, probably will leave that book. So.
Yeah.
Can you tell by the end of the Earth 2 Monthly whether it's going to tie back in to the next few issues of Earth 2 Weekly, or does it look like it will continue its own story next month?
Well, I don't know. It just kind of leaves them all at the end, kind of like, well, here's the team, here's the new team, and I don't know if that means the book is going to focus on Power Girl, this different Superman, Batman, Huntress, and
Red Tornado.
And Red Tornado, Lois Lane. I don't know if that's going to be the.
Well, so in this, again, another problem I had with this is at the end of the monthly, it says coming soon, the Furies, and then the Furies actually appear in this. So I think it's probably going to be tied together. I'll probably know for sure by next week.
Because you're right. In the end of this one, it says next the Furies of Apocalypse is what it says. So.
Yeah, and they actually appear in this one. Yeah.
So it sounds like Damien, your fears are right about the fact that that the weekly book is just literally going to completely gut the monthly book.
And there's probably a good chance I'll still get sucked into the new weekly. I've got sucked into every weekly.
Yeah.
Each one I waited a few weeks and then I gave in.
Well, they're the best things DC's putting out by far.
Well, especially in my eyes, Future's End.
Yeah.
The Earth 2 Weekly is mostly by writers that I either haven't heard of or have heard very little about, and mostly negative.
Well, they have something to prove. That could be a good thing.
Whereas the Future's End Weekly is all by writers that I have a good history with.
Yeah, and it's probably controversial, but I think it's probably the best book DC's doing right now. That's besides that one issue, consistently coming out with good stuff.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. There are some people who hate it, but they're not you and I.
Yeah. I could see why you wouldn't like it, but I think
it sounds nothing but awesome to me. I
think the people who want to see more of the major DC heroes are less excited by Future's End.
And to me, I say
completely
they have their own comics.
Yeah,
they have their own comics already. Go read those.
Yeah.
And this does such a great job of making that deep DC lineup interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It takes full advantage, capitalizes on the good stuff that DC has sort of in its back pockets.
And it's been the only good use of the Wildstorm characters that got dragged into everything.
Yeah.
That also, yeah. It makes it feel like good DC characters all of a sudden.
And it's one of those things where I find myself, it's usually at the top of my pile when I sit down to read things. When I sit down to read, I go, okay, even if there's something else that I've been really looking forward to, I go, I'm going to go through this real quick. I want to see what Frank's up to this week. And they didn't disappoint because...
we got another solid issue this week. Yeah.
Black Adam is kind of joining up with them, and I'm loving that.
You're killing me.
And the Atom has put on his costume and uses a sword.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I think I've spoiled enough that you know that Stormfront's the racist group that sends me emails. But uh, Stormwatch is done for, and they need a new leader, and so they've chosen the Atom as their new leader. I love that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Are you reading this weekly, Matt?
The Future's End?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I'm actually backing it right now.
Oh.
Yeah, we got 23 this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, this issue kind of felt like the weekly curse to me. Like, this was a good issue, but this issue in particular felt like if you hadn't been reading it, there's not much in here for you except for a few, shots. But like,
yeah, you would be lost. You would be so lost.
Well,
the long sequence that's kind of inside the head of Red Robin's girlfriend, which I loved, but I think I would have no idea what was going on.
Well, and it was kind of jarring because they jumped ahead to the older, Mr. Terrific.
What did you think of that ending?
That was honestly the worst part for me, was that last panel.
Oh, yeah, I don't like that creation there that we probably don't want to spoil.
Yeah, the only part I guess I could really dig into, we don't want to talk about. So.
Yeah, because I was interested in what they had done with that character earlier in that time period. How he seemed to be one of the last vestigial characters around, and now that I know that he's kind of tied in with, I'm kind of hoping they just gloss over that. Just go ahead. All right, let's work that out, but not have that take too much space in this book.
Because I get the idea, but it just feels so forced. Like there's no reason. There's no reason for it.
No. Well, there hasn't been anything in the story up to this point that would make you interested in that.
Well, also they're jumping back to the time frame for that reveal. Like we haven't been in that time frame
very much.
Issue 1.
Right.
Like,
it does feel, unlike everything else, which feels like a well-oiled machine, it feels like almost a last-minute decision. Let's throw in this shocking thing that we can have on the cover next week or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, 22 great issues out of 23. I kind of trust this.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm not.
And this wasn't a bad issue. This was just an issue that was an issue 23. If you didn't read 22, 21.
No, I'm saying 21 was the one bad issue.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Right.
So
yeah.
getting 22 out of 23 issues that all were great makes me give them a lot of slack that they'll somehow make me like this turn of events at the very end of the book.
Well, isn't that one of the interesting things about the weekly comic is you're given room for them to fix an issue or whatever if they drop like a bomb at the end of this that seems out of place, because the comic comes, you've got 80 pages a month to play with, that you've got room to get back to whatever you need to get back to, or add into whatever you need to. Of course, that also gives you a lot more rope to hang yourself too. I mean, there's a double-edged sword there.
Eternal is very good at hanging itself.
Yeah.
And they are very good at fixing their problems.
Do we need to dig into that now?
Are we done talking that one? We'll go on to Eternal.
Go ahead.
Eternal.
As we like to.
Did we all four read it?
No, I dropped that.
Okay.
He dropped it, so we'll talk a lot about spoilers in it and how awesome she is. Because
feel free.
If that were only the case.
Yeah, as I was saying,
awesome spoiler notebook scene.
I know you're lying because.
What? You guys didn't like that?
Actually, no. You know what? I liked what she did. I thought it was fun. She basically points out that across the social network, they use the hashtag for Batman, and everybody basically talks about where Batman's at. Anytime you see him, on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, I saw, hashtag Batman, whatever. And she uses that to basically figure out that the guy's got a routine. And she kind of points out, you've got a routine.
No,
I didn't mind it. Other than Batman shouldn't have a routine, right?
Other than, no, some kid shouldn't figure that out.
And
Sure.
Not some kid. It's the spoiler.
No,
Tim Drake did it. Why can't everybody else?
You're acting like I liked.
I know. I hate Tim Drake. That's why I didn't like Tim Drake. That's
I
why I
didn't
didn't
like
like Tim
that.
Drake either. The one thing I thought was funny is that because she does that, she uses Batman to get an assassin off of her tail, which I did like that part.
Right.
She basically tricks, this assassin to basically literally run into Batman and takes out the assassin, which I thought part was cool.
Yeah, I actually like that.
Yeah, I liked that.
Any
scene,
assassin.
just afterwards thinking about it, really, and thinking that Batman seemed a bit like an idiot from it. But.
Yeah.
Well, but Batman's not an idiot here.
The
It's
flamingo. It was the flamingo was the assassin, too.
Oh my god. Make me regret dropping this already. Come on, try.
I now read this assuming there's going to be 3 or 4 slightly not well thought through plot points in each issue.
Mm-hmm.
And by accepting that, this was a good issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought it had great coloring.
I like the art. The art kind of mimics, in some sense, Gilliam March's art, which I like, and a lot of people don't like. They think he's over-sexist and whatever, but I like his art. This art kind of mimicked that to some degree, so I enjoyed it for that. There is this issue, it felt more random, and I want to say it felt random in a way that if you're not used to Morrison, suddenly there's just random stuff in it, and you kind of wonder how is that going to make a reference? I mean, like the fact the guy's got the whole menagerie in his house, and it's because, of course, Tiger Shark had the menagerie, and to get at Tiger Shark, he couldn't steal his family, so he stole all of his animals.
I thought they'd killed all his animals, but I guess they stole them.
Right. Well, I always thought that was kind of weird that they have Tiger Shark having all these animals anyway, because I don't remember that character ever having an entire menagerie. But anyway, so you got these kind of random moments that are amusing. It just felt like out of place, but at the same time you think at some point it's going to make some sort of sense somewhere.
Was that menagerie stuff like Tim Seeley just having fun with this? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
There's literally an elephant up on the guy's balcony.
Yeah.
The whole house would just crumble under the weight.
So I would assume that basically they went, hey, artist, draw a whole bunch of animals inside this guy's apartment because it's going to be funny.
Yeah.
So
and
let's do it.
Kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
Well, what about the scene with Killer Croc going into the Happy Hands massage parlor?
What?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
And asking for a massage because, of course, he's all leathery.
But you're going to need to bust out the industrial
skin's kind of dry.
lotion because my skin's kind of dry. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And the woman working in the massage parlor who looks almost like a cadaver was kind of a weird touch.
Well, yeah, because she's the old hag in charge, and there's a whole bunch of layer to that brothel in one page.
Right.
I don't know.
Her arm is all bandaged. We don't know why.
Yeah, it's a nice and clean massage parlor, obviously. But I don't know. I liked it. I mean, it was random. There's some parts in it that are kind of
too.
or whatever. But I ultimately I enjoyed it. I can't tell you 100% why. These little things we've pointed out. I mean, you could spend just as much time going back through and picking on the stuff that's there, just like always. But I don't know.
Well, there is a wasted page with Killer Croc, but overall, the fact that they're using Killer Croc as this character in here,
he's a good
savage.
Yeah,
he's the noble savage, huh?
I like the idea of building up a character like that and giving him more depth. Like that's really cool, and it makes me enjoy this book so much more. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you're in the Batman Eternal zone, which I consider a zone where you are less picky, it was a very good issue.
Yeah, it was fun.
You got to be in the right mindset. Well, speaking of the right mindset, are we sticking with Batman?
Sure.
Oh.
Whatever.
Batman.
First of all, how awesome is it that they're taking a Legends of the Dark Knight story arc and turning it into an actual Batman story? Come on, him versus the Justice League. Think about it. It's a Legends of the Dark Knight story that they're turning into.
But it's already been told and better.
Okay. I'm honestly just gonna say it. People are looking to hate this. That's the only way you can look at this because. Oh, totally.
Well, people. Sure. Screw people.
Okay.
But
let's get to some specifics then, Matt. You did not like the book. What about it in particular did not you like? Mine's the monster variant, by the way. That's what mine, and I liked it because I liked the Light of Dracula and stuff.
So the main reason I don't like this comic is because it's incomprehensible. It's written poorly. The way it jumps from scene to scene, the way it jumps from one thing to the next, makes it nearly impossible to follow, and there's no reason for it. It's not a dream sequence. It's not actually a big Scarecrow story, even though that's what it is for 3 pages randomly. It's...
Where?
It's just... Yeah, exactly! Where was this huge detail?
Where's the Scarecrow? 3 pages?
Well, and also, the other thing I really don't like is there's this first page all about Ex Machina. That is a frickin' faux pas anymore. That is a storytelling no-no, because that just means, oh, there's going to be some bullshit on the last issue. That's all that's setting up.
And you just said something about every single comic ever, but I'm just going to throw that out there. Not to burst your bubble there, but no, it flowed well. So the theater, I can see why you didn't like that, but I will say that this is supposed to be taking place in the post-Eternal.
That's my biggest beef with this thing is that we're told that this happens after the Batman Eternal events. This is Gotham and all of its denizens after whatever happens there. So
where does it say that?
It was announced.
Yeah, it's been announced.
I just read the comics.
It frickin' says in the comic.
No, it says after 0 year with the Gotham Theater.
No. Down at the very bottom here it says the events of this story take place after Batman Eternal. That is on the title page. The title page right there. Not that my camera's going to focus on that. But
I'll find it. Oh God, yeah. I'm sorry. Editor.
And so this falls under the category as far as for me with the Earth 2, that it's kind of bullshit that they give us this story after the fact of the weekly, and the weekly is only halfway through.
Yeah.
So now we know. Obviously, we knew Alfred was going to survive it, but how is he going to survive, and what's he going to be like at the end of it? We know that. We know that quote unquote Penny 2 is going to be hanging around. I don't know. I didn't want that. I mean, Penny 2 could have died somewhere during this whole thing. I know they're safe. You know.
Right. It's very smart.
I know at the end of this, he doesn't have a Batcave, which of course we kind of knew that was coming because of the whole other comic book. But so that stuff sucks. That sucks. That's spoiling their own comic.
Why do they have all this complex continuity to then just jump it? And it seems like Snyder set up the continuity of Batman Eternal. Couldn't he fit his own comic book into it?
Well, that was my understanding initially when this was talked about. It was the opportunity for them to move Gotham and its denizens to the place that he wanted them at. And so I would assume that until that happened, he wouldn't be writing the future, which is basically what this is.
Right.
This has to be the future, or I guess Batman Eternal happens in 4 nights, right?
Well, that's my problem with Eternal right there. Is I feel like a lot of this could have been a lot shorter. They could have done it in probably 6 months in much bigger. A lot of that shit could have been cut out.
Yeah. But that being said, I actually liked this issue. I thought it was fun. I think it's fun him getting slammed around with the Justice League. Him trying to talk everybody down. Let's just talk about it. And they're all basically beating the hell out of him. I'm always tired of seeing Batman inside of a power suit, but this is the one time it makes sense to have him inside one as one of his Justice League contingents, because he knows he's going to get his ass kicked otherwise.
Does he have the power suit from Batman and Robin?
That's a good question.
I don't think so. It doesn't look the same to me.
It's a different suit.
That suit looks.
When
That
is
suit
Batman in
looks
Apocalypse when we're talking about all this continuity? I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. Right.
That's a different suit.
It's a
And
fevered dream.
well,
Let's see.
so the way he takes out the Justice League by and large is pretty.
Batman-ish.
I have problems with every one of them, frankly. I don't know. It just didn't feel well written.
Well,
I don't
on
know.
top of that, so is Damian back yet? Is he alive again? I mean, if you're going to find all that, I mean, it didn't tell you a whole lot, but it also did tell you a whole lot about Eternal.
See, right. I mean, I thought that how he took the people out works, for a number of reasons, because it's very Batman-like. Obviously, every single one of these people that he engages, they point out the fact that all of them are off their game. Not a single one of them is on their A game, and that's how Batman is defeating them. With under the assumption that thank God they're not all 100% sharp, because otherwise he'd be screwed. He's only got the drop on the Flash because the Flash isn't moving at optimal. He gets the drop on Diana because she's not operating under 100%. And I like the sneaky thing he used against her and stuff. I don't know.
Except out of nowhere, they introduce a whole frickin' thing to the Wonder Woman mythos that came out of left field.
Which is?
That
rope, because Wonder Woman was the one person he didn't have a fight against. Way back in the Justice League, they point out that Wonder Woman's the one person he doesn't have his only answer to Wonder Woman is Superman. That's why he's concerned about the relationship. That's addressed in Justice League.
Yeah.
And so Wonder Woman's the one person that there's nothing in the box for. And Matt's right. Suddenly he has something he pulls out of his box. He drops that lasso on her that messes with her.
Which is now part of Wonder Woman mythos, or they just ignore it. But I mean, the story of him getting that has to be a story before he just pulls that out.
It might be.
Well, yes and no. The only story is he spent all of his time on the black market magic eBay site until he found it and bought it.
I just pulling that out is like, oh, there's an anti-Wonder Woman ribbon. Whoop! Like it just it's Wonder Woman. Like
And I even like the backup story.
Yeah, I like that too, and it's written by the Fourth.
That story is cool.
It's written by.
Sorry, I give you that revelation.
Yeah, it's written by Tinian. I like Kelly Jones's art in it. I like his style for this kind of weird, twisted thing. I love these obviously demented people whose warped versions of what's happened to them somehow is being fed into the shocker of this thing. I don't know if I want to. I'm not going to say what it is in case you somewhere have been hiding on the internet and haven't been told who the bad guy is, seemingly at the end of this thing. So,
but what I will say is, how about you cut that and make this $3.99?
That may be what happens.
Yeah.
When they drop because they are dropping the price point back down. I mean, DC said they're dropping the price point back down because this whole Endgame thing was supposed to be a $5 book, and it's not going to be now. They're dropping the price on the rest of them. They made us cut that. They made us cut that back matter out of it. I don't know. I kind of like the back matter though. That was potentially an interesting story too. So.
Wasn't worth $1. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. I know we're going to disagree on that, so I thought it was fun. Yeah, is it deep comics? No. But I thought...
Well, and are they going to explain how he got his face back?
I don't know. You have to read it to find out. You want all the answers in one comic?
You're exactly what's wrong.
I don't want all the answers in one comic, but I'd like them to start with answering maybe one thing or another, not just introducing a whole level of mythos to the.
But so you wanted this story to start out with a whole adventures of
let's explain everything
of him getting his face back, as opposed to how you start out most of these types of things, where it's this big explosion, and then we find out what the hell, why is there a big explosion?
Maybe he'll get his face back in Eternal later.
No, they're going to make a movie.
Fair.
It's going to be called... No, they're making a movie. It's called How Joker Got His Face Back.
Come on. Joker saves face.
Yes.
Do they... I haven't read it. Do they indicate that Batman has not seen the Joker since Death in the Family?
That's a good question.
It doesn't give us indication one way or the other, because there's no
on Eternal.
Because there's no indication that any of that it's the Joker until the very last page. And the one person he's hoping he doesn't have to engage is Superman. Superman basically punches him into pieces in a single blow, and he comes down, and you get the reveal, close-up of Superman's face, and he's pallid in complexion with bright red lips, and you're like, oh, shit.
How long is Eternal supposed to be timeline-wise within the Batman universe? How long is that?
We have no idea.
So that's what I'm kind of wondering, if it's, because Eternal's supposed to be taking place kind of soon after the death of the family.
Yeah, you think about it, there's going to be a lot of comics that are going to start before Eternal's done, because obviously Catwoman is not at Crime Lord stage, but our understanding is when her own book starts up this month, she's a crime lord. She's already established as some sort of crime lord, I would guess.
So we're going to be reading two timelines of Gotham simultaneously for a while.
Yeah.
If we read Eternal.
Which doesn't, I don't care, that's fine.
What also doesn't make sense about this issue is what's with the Justice League? Where is Lex Luthor? Where's Captain Cold? What's going on?
Yeah, it's the Justice League that started out in the New 52 that at the beginning.
Well, but the big thing about the Justice League and the New 52 at the beginning is that they have so much to come over. They have to contend with Stormwatch. They have to contend with Justice League Unlimited. Very eventually, they have to contend with the idea of Justice League America. There's so many people to call in that Batman has, a phone call away to get some assistance, and none of that. I don't
think he's going to, though, because Batman doesn't trust all of those people.
He doesn't have to trust them. He just says, "Go knock out Superman."
No, this is his core. Right? Yeah.
That's a classic Batman criticism, though. Anytime he's really gotten in a mix-up, or he's almost going to die, wise, and he just calls Superman and have him fix everything for him. I mean, it would kill the book essentially if he had that ability, and he really used it. Nightfall would have been over fairly quick if Bane would have had Superman just fly down and take him out. So. Yeah, he's not going to
been a better book.
Those are flaws in Batman's character.
Superman can just blow a little breeze from across the river in Metropolis and blow away any problem, Batman. Doesn't have to show up.
Yeah. Which is why everybody hates Superman, right?
Gets a baseball and throws it really hard.
Hey, you can't deal with the trickster unless it's one-on-one. I don't know. It doesn't seem that easy.
I mean, part of me thinks it seems like it's awfully soon to come back to the Joker, but that's my other criticism about it. Is it just feels like we just got off of a long haul from Joker, because it feels like 0 Year was really long, but at the same time really short because nothing happened during that whole time. So
here's my real criticism of this book. How much more interesting would it be if the Justice League wasn't trying to kill him, but just trying to detain him, the way that they do any other criminal, but they have a reason to be targeting Batman?
That would have been interesting.
That's my real problem with the book.
I was hoping that it would be a villain from early on, because this was supposed to be kind of representative of the anniversary of Batman and all that. So I was hoping it would be like Hugo Strange or the Mad Monk or someone like that they would bring in and kind of reimagine in the New 52. But they've been disappointing me time after time with how they're not doing stuff like that. So that would have been far more interesting to me.
Hugo Strange pulling something like that with the psychology and creating a new mindscape fits both of our ideas. Like that's far more interesting.
And are both of you dropping the book?
No. I liked it. So I dropped Eternal, so I can just enjoy this.
I'm really on the edge of dropping it along with a lot of DC books right now. So
Did you not like Batgirl?
Are we going to talk about Batgirl now?
Let's roll on to Batgirl. Let's do that.
God, why is everyone trashing it?
Okay, well, you want to hear my take on it?
Go
ahead.
Here's my take on it. And part of my experience with this is that the prior run of Batgirl, official run of Batgirl, which is probably one of my all-time favorite comics, to be quite honest. The Brian Q. Miller's run of Batgirl. I love everything about that book, the way it ended and everything. But I bought issue 1 of that book, picked it up, read it, went F you at the end of it, threw the comic book across the room because it was utter crap that they fundamentally changed this character. They had this cool Batgirl before that, and they just have her drop her clothes and walk away, and it was so stupid. And I went, F it, I'm having nothing to do with this book. I waited 6 more issues. I heard people talking great things about it. Went back, picked up the book, and went, oh my God, I'm crazy for not having stayed on the book. Yeah. So I'm going to stay on this book because to me this feels like a whole new run of the book. Quite honestly, this is what they should have done with the book from the very beginning of the New 52. This is what it should have been.
No.
Yes. No. Not yes. Because now it doesn't make sense. Now it does not make sense at all. It doesn't make sense. Go on. It doesn't make sense because we went from the last issue having this, much more, darker, mature, cautious type of a person, and then we move into this other completely different character. I mean, I agree to a large degree with you, Matt. This should have been a Stephanie Brown book. This should have been a spoiler book. It makes much more sense from watching your review about it. It makes much more sense for that to be that than to be what it is. For me, the first 4 or 5 pages make her out to be an alien that I have no idea who this woman is.
It's not Barbara.
No, not at all. Not at all. If I look at the book, by itself though as not being my Barbara or the last 34 issues of what this book was, I liked it. I liked it for what it was.
So it was a prequel to the Rat Queens, I think.
They are. They are.
See, what you got to do is what I did with it. I got a yellow highlighter and I just went through and just changed the hair in each page, and it works.
To Stephanie Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did feel like they were hitting on some of that stuff.
I have 2 things I need to interject with. First of all, I've changed my mind a bit about this book since my review because I had to digest it for a while. This was a huge thing.
Sure.
Second of all, whatever about this book, look, the Gail Simone run on Batgirl has been one of my favorite things since DC restarted, and whether or not, whatever, saying that we should have not had those books, no, those were some of the best things DC put out in those months. It was a great book. They should have not. Saying they shouldn't have printed that is insane to me. That's one of the best things they put out. That's all I'm saying about that. I mean, yeah, this is drastically different. This should be if ever there should be a relaunch with a new number one, this earns it. This is the sort of thing that should be.
It would have really served the audience well to call it a number one.
I looked at it that way from the beginning, though, because they the whole time when they were announcing it and everything were saying it's going to be completely different. It's going to have a lot lighter of a tone. So I went into it expecting all of this. I didn't.
Yeah.
True. So for those of us paying attention, but it would have helped all readers, I think, making it number one.
It wouldn't hurt. Argument for why I think volume reboots can be a good thing if done properly. If they had done this as a new volume, I think it would have been a much smarter move and made people read it more.
Well, they just did it with Teen Titans and Suicide Squad, so why not?
Right, because in this, the only reason,
let's run DC.
Right, as a new reader, the only reason you'd pick this up is if you're savvy enough to be paying attention to comic book news and go, ooh, this sounds like it might be interesting to me, and you pick it up. It's not like you walk into the store and aren't savvy to the news and would go, oh, number 35, I know this is going to be a completely fresh-faced book, let's pick it up. It makes no sense.
And I know this is a weird nitpick, but if they hadn't done selfie covers for other comics, this would have stood out more and made more sense.
That is very true. A lot of people, I heard them saying it was the selfie variant.
Oh,
well,
no.
I almost picked up the monster version. There was a monster version of this. I didn't pick up the monster version of this one, even though I liked it, because I wanted the official cover of the new book and what the new book represents. So that's why I got this one instead of the monster, because I wanted to represent what it was.
It does look like a selfie cover. I didn't even think about that.
Well, it is. It 100% is. That's what the hell she's doing.
So one of the characters, this new version of her is a character who really would take selfies. So unlike all the other characters.
I didn't think of that, yeah.
No, apparently Batman and Superman and all of them take selfies.
Was there a Swamp Thing selfie?
There should have been. Yeah. That would have been great. Him smiling, how creepy would that have been? That grimace that he always has in the grin.
So, the book. the book. I loved the art. I thought the art was great in it. I like the coloring. I like the page panel movement. I like everything about it as far as that goes. It matches the tone of what this book is now.
Yeah.
I mean, what they're going for. I get it. I'm not 100% sure. The script feels weird to me. I have to admit, the idea of Barbara Gordon drinking to the point of unconsciousness or near unconsciousness just seems strange to me. It seems. I don't know. To me, that was. I had a really hard time wrapping my head around that alone. Just kind of seems.
That seems.
But it's
dark.
okay. But it's okay if Dick Grayson.
No, that's
owns
not
a
what.
chick and all right, okay.
No,
okay,
it's
I'm just saying.
irresponsible. It would be irresponsible for him to do that too.
Okay.
But I'm also saying look at the way this character has always been presented. Okay.
Kind of
Right or wrong.
more responsible than most.
Right or wrong. That's not her inner character. That's not how her character is. You know, unless something really, really bad. I just don't see how that. I don't see her. I mean, in the last bit of comics we had, she went on a caffeine bender. That was her bender, not I moved into a new house. Let's party to unconsciousness. And I'm not.
Right.
And I'm not making that judgment based on she's a girl and she should know better than to put herself at risk. That's not what I'm saying at all. Let me be clear on that. I'm saying Barbara Gordon has always been a responsible type person, and I don't think it's responsible for anybody to drink to the point where they can't remember what the hell they did. And this is me maybe being a prude. I'm saying that about all of you, including me.
And
No.
Okay.
I was very irresponsible in my early 20s.
I know.
Even when you're so drunk you can't remember when you're a superhero. Who are you going to tell secrets to?
Well, yeah.
She knows Bruce Wayne is Batman, right?
That would have been so cool, though, in a way.
Tells all these bisexual friends of hers who Bruce Wayne really is.
She's like, you guys are going to believe this.
No. So here's my bigger problem with that, and Damien, you might be able to back me up on this. From a character that has perfect recall, she has an immaculate memory, and she can look forward. She is a certain way, if you're going to take the Tony Stark comparison, a certain way a futurist, though they don't quite play her that way. Knowing about Blackout Drunk and knowing that she'll be able to recall that pain perfectly. The only characters who have done that, to my knowledge, that have that kind of recall have some sort of dark past that they're actively trying to get away from and are forever drunks. They're forever people with... That's a handicap for them because they're trying to get away from something. And that's not how they played it at all. But the fact that they have a character like this doing that hit me as a really dark undertone that I think was completely unattended.
Well, what really bothered me about the approach to her character, and this is getting at the same thing from another angle, was in general, I mean, we all do foolish things, but her response to having done the foolish things was so light and airy. You know, she doesn't feel bad at all about having gotten drunk and not remembering who she was making out with, or worrying, did I make a mistake by getting that drunk? I might have made other mistakes, or worry about what's it doing to my body. I'm supposed to be, 100% physically fit. It was all done just as a joke, and that just seemed wrong to me.
Oops! I torched all of Black Canary's housing.
Right.
And I thought the end of the whole thing was
to take her character in interesting ways, but. Sure. I mean, I could be wrong. Later issues might prove that they have a deeper thinking of it. But I felt like the writers just thought, oh, this is just funny. Let's just, we all party and we're all cool about it, so let's just throw it in.
Well, the idea that in our 20s we all had a good time, right? Or
right.
I'm going to assume.
Here's to that.
Right, and some of us still are having a good time. Right, but. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like Barbara Gordon. I also thought it was really curious at the end of this issue that the new roommate ends up, frolicking with the guy that she was making out with, and it just seems like it's no big deal. Oh, okay.
It seemed almost to be a marker of how cool they were, that they could share a man in the same evening.
I hate it that I'm agreeing with you, but I totally do.
And I'm not, obviously I'm my own person. I don't think for anybody else or whatever. even if I wasn't really interested in the guy I was making out with, he just looked good because I was drunk off my ass, I'd be a bit bothered that my friend, roommate, saved me from them, and then had their own good time with them. I don't know. That's just like I said. That made it
There's a person you can really trust.
You know what though? Like Damien just totally made me drop this book. He totally did. Because he put the nail on the head of what was bothering me about it, and he did. Did you ever watch that TV show Entourage? It's the same feeling where they're just so cool and with it and hip that you're just kind of like, I can't. This is stupid. And he just nailed it for me. That's what they're trying to do with this, and it's stupid.
Well,
you nailed it.
I don't.
They'll start exploring consequences or something. I can only hope, but
yeah. I'm not, like I said, I'm not burning it down on an issue. I don't hate it. I don't hate it by any means. It's radically different from what was there before. I get that that's their intent and whatnot. And I, like I said, from my own personal experience with the last Batgirl run that I hated and then I ended up loving. Like I said, it's one of my favorite runs of books. I'm gonna write it out. I'm gonna write it out and see what is there. But there's things about it that just kind of bother me. And I mean, I guess anybody who watches this and thinks that I'm just the white old dude who's pissed that my dark whatever comic got changed and that's why I'm angry, I'll tell you that's not the case, because whereas Matt loved Gail Simone's run, if you go back and watch my video reviews, probably 75% of it is me bitching about how the book should be better than what it was. So I'm just saying. So I'm not sold on the last thing. I'm not sold her being dark and grim and gritty and all of that. But there's other weird fundamental things about Barbara that don't feel like Barbara to me.
What if they changed it to Oracle and they just had a book starring Oracle?
I'd buy that.
I'd buy it in a heartbeat.
How about partying with Oracle?
I would
buy
do
that.
that.
There's a reason to drink. You got no legs.
Yes.
I would. I'd be all over that too.
I want to say some positive things, though. I really liked the way they very thoroughly worked out the crime and how she solved it. In a lot of the Gail Simone run, which I liked a lot, she would kind of gloss over, the actual detectiving and stuff like that. And I liked the way they did it in this issue. And I liked that the issue was very dense and that they didn't try to stretch out their story for issues and issues. They gave us a whole story.
Well, I wasn't here
I just think they have to work on the characters in a way.
I wasn't here last week for it, but that's why I liked Detective this month. Is people tend to forget that Batman is a detective at the end of the day, and they should explore that more often. And I feel like they let that go. And it's called Detective Comics. Have him be a superhero in Batman, but let's have him be a crime fighter in Detective. That issue was great.
Yeah, they really introduced or reintroduced her memory abilities in a really cool way.
Mm-hmm.
Although the drink,
but inconsistent. Her memories are inconsistent though.
Right.
You look at those first couple of pages. I mean, is she just being coy, not acting like she's Miss Smarty Pants when she goes, when she's asking questions about the black, whatever it is, the black website, whatever it's called.
Right.
That to me, it's inconsistent. If you're gonna farm that she can just go woo and remember all this stuff, which is awesome. That's a cool thing about the character and stuff. But then she shouldn't have these moments where she's kind of not smart about it, I guess. And I think it's also crappy that they got rid of the transsexual.
Transgender.
I don't know why they had to get rid of her. She fit right in.
No, I thought she was going. I mean, I got the impression that the last issue that she was going with Barbara.
Right.
Gail's
She invited her to come along.
And now suddenly she's not.
Yeah. That's part of the whole rebootiness. They just want to
clean slate.
Their field.
Yeah.
Because I assume we've never seen this bisexual roommate of hers before.
No. Mm-mm. What I think is going to be curious also is how they're going to reconcile this book, the flavor of it, the way the character acts and whatnot, with the rest of the DC universe. Just an issue ago. Well, no, in this issue of Paternal, right? She's in this. Isn't she in this latest issue?
Right. She's hanging the commissioner by his 1 foot from the tallest building she can find. And
she's angry that he put her down in prison.
And she's wearing her old outfit.
So yeah, I mean, not whatever. I mean, it's cool. This is quasi out of continuity or whatever, but it'll be interesting to see how that all gets reconciled somewhere down the road.
They better leave it like Hawkeye and just not involve it too much in day-to-day continuity.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm not hating on the book. I enjoyed it, taking it at its own face value as largely. I do have issues with it, it being Barbara Gordon, though. It just seems odd. There's some of those things that are odd. So,
taking it at face value, there's another problem I had with it, because this is supposed to be a very, fight the misogyny, girl power kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
He spends pages just hanging out without pants around, and there's the whole weird slumber party thing going on. That hit me as really weird. And then there's this whole bit about to hook the connection to get to the end of the crime. They doll her all up and then put her up to be like playing on her femininity 100%.
So she can kick the ass of a misogynist.
Well, yeah,
that's
but
the easiest way. That's the easiest way to catch one. That part didn't bother me because that makes perfect sense.
To catch a...
But Matt's right. The whole thing was very cliched, slumber party, let's do a makeover kind of stuff.
And I mean, if that was the only part that was kind of questionable towards the girl power thing, I think I would have let it slide. But because of the way the rest of the issue read and was very, and she's hanging out without pants, and then, they're trading over a guy. I don't even know if this comic passes the Bechdel test, really. Like, it just... it didn't hit me as the book that it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious. I mean, we do have some ladies who do watch the show and whatnot. I mean, is it...
Reader 1717 liked it a lot. So
is it right? Well, is it typical young ladies at that age, wander around in their, shirt and panties and hang out and whatnot? I'm not going to say one way or the other whether or not that's normal or not. I haven't a clue.
Whether it's normal or not, the depicting it the way they did, I think, was a little rough. Which actually, that was pointed out to me on someone else's review, happened to be a girl, and that really triggered a lot for me and forced me to re-examine the book.
Mm-hmm. Now,
there's a whole subset in my experience of girls in their 20s who like to be sexy a lot, and have fun doing that. So. I don't know. I would really leave it to the women to decide on that level of things.
Yeah.
If it's right or not.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one.
Look, like, if that was in Harley Quinn, it wouldn't bug me. But in this book, because of what they're trying to do with it, it doesn't fit the tone in my mind.
Women in their 20s, everyone in their 20s enjoys being sexy. Let's just throw that out there.
They're trying to make it young. They're not trying to make it politically correct necessarily.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I see what you're saying. It hit me wrong, especially in this book, in this issue. The amount it was done, it rang wrong. I don't know, for me.
In a way, it was a little bit like a groovier Betty and Veronica, with betrayal of one stealing the other friend's boyfriend and everything.
Yeah, I'm dropping it.
I'm disappointed then. I thought I liked Veronica better than that.
My daughter loves Betty and Veronica, but I can't read this to her.
Yeah, no.
No, and that was kind of the thing. I thought the tone they were going to go with this is it was going to go towards a younger crowd. I thought that was kind of the idea behind it. And
It is. All of us old geezers don't like it, right? So.
But no, I thought it meant more like young girls getting into it. And if I had a daughter, I probably would not let her read this issue.
Yeah, they hit.
How old is your hypothetical daughter?
They hit a.
Hypothetical.
They hit a different age bracket than what I initially thought they were going for too. I thought they were going for a younger crowd. Obviously, they're aiming. It feels to me like they're aiming for the age group that Barbara is.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. There needs to be comics that fill that gap too. I'm all for it.
They're aiming for girls or women whose fathers no longer control the comic book spigot.
There you go.
That's never happened in my house.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
Quite honestly, I have a 13-year-old. I wouldn't keep her from reading this comic, but I can tell you she wouldn't be interested in it either.
Yeah.
Because she's not at the point. She's not at the point yet. Yes, she's not at the point yet where socially, a lot of what happens in this book, she's interested in it at all. She's not. She'd be interested in the adventure part of it and whatnot. She doesn't mind some romance or whatever, but that's not the top of her agenda of things. Boys aren't the end-all, be-all for her. Not to say that this book gears that, but that whole part of it wouldn't interest her. The whole, selfie, what's on my phone, what's not on my phone, doesn't interest her either. She's not in her life, so it's not relevant to her. Not to say that all 13-year-olds are that way. Mine just happens to be that's not interesting. I figure if you give her another 3 years, she'll be all over that book. That's a little closer to probably what she'll be like when she's actually in high school and stuff. So.
Oh yeah. And the switch flips. Yeah.
Well,
right.
If any women, under 35 review this, it'll be very interesting, I think, whether they've hit the mark or not. No, we aren't the right people to say.
Yeah, as far as some of that stuff goes, no doubt.
The writers are men. The lead guy, the one who did the cover, also I saw an interview with him. It's interesting that he lives in Berlin, which I know is a very kind of out there party kind of town.
But he also helped. Are you talking about Cameron Stewart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a video interview with him on CBR, and he was talking all about living in Berlin.
Yeah, he travels around, but I think currently Berlin is home base, but he spends months and months all over the place. Because you were talking about the Burnside and it being like, Burnside of Portland. Well, he spent like 6 months in the Portland area, very recently. So.
See, I now think the Burnside thing is just a name check because it seems very clearly to be Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We'll have to agree to disagree.
So I'm just reading some of the comments because they're coming in on my phone faster than they are on my comment feed. T-Rex says some interesting thoughts about the Belcher test. I didn't feel girl power so much as a token effort at it. It's her take on it.
I agree with that.
For those of us who are familiar with
the Bechdel
T-Rex and whatnot, and her perspective on it. Good to know. Thank you for. At any rate, other DC books, since we spent quite a bit of time on that, and I think we're all across the board on what we think about that book and whatnot. I did pick up Clarion. Issue number 1. Which
awesome.
Which we all dodged because, of course, the writer that's on it, we all have got really bad experiences with, I'm assuming.
Well, I thought about this, and actually where she does do well is in supernatural type stuff because, she invented Blackheart for crying out loud. So
back in the day, I loved this writer. I loved her run on Daredevil. She created some characters, Typhoid Mary, and stuff like that. I love those characters. So don't get me wrong, back in the day, she was awesome. I was excited when she was suddenly coming back to comics. Super excited until she started writing Green Arrow, and it was really awful, and Catwoman, which was really bad, too.
I know who we're talking
about. Katana, which is awful also. Okay, so we get to this. The art in it is fabulous. It's McCarthy. He was, of course, the backup artist on recently on Batwoman. He did the arcs that J.H. Williams wasn't doing. Of course, I think he aped J.H. Williams' panel layouts a little bit and whatnot. In this thing, it's more of, I think he gets to do more of his own thing. He still uses some of that stylized paneling, but it works really well in here. The coloring is sharp on it. There's some great. He learned some stuff, I think, from J.H. Williams, but it's not over the top. So I like the art. I like the art in it. And you know what? As far as a story goes, it wasn't a bad story either. There's some weird dialogue choices, and that's been one of my problems with Anisetti's work in the modern time. The way people talk sometimes feel really odd. Fortunately, when it comes to Clarion, because he's from another dimension, him talking a little weird is okay. So it doesn't. There's enough mythical people in this book that it doesn't seem so bothersome. I'm going to be on it for a little while. I did enjoy it. I don't know that I would really recommend it necessarily to anybody, but if you're curious, check it out. It's him having been scolded. He's running away from home because he gets in trouble in the dimension that he comes from because he wants to cast real magic and really kick ass, and where he comes from wants to control him too much, and he wants free will to do whatever he wants to do. He rides in a car. He hitchhikes from the netherworld with Beelzebub down to Earth, and Beelzebub drops him off on Earth. And there seems to be a conflict. He ends up going to this house that's kind of a weird museum halfway house for magic people. He's living there as a sous cook, and there is a techno-punk club where there are other magicians that are flirting with technology-type magic, and it looks like there's going to be a conflict between the kind of organic, fairy, satyr-type magic versus this more technological, upbeat kind of a thing. So
she has a dialogue problem, but I feel, well, from what I've read of her in the New 52, I feel like she also has a
plotting.
Her plots start going in one direction, and then they just wander off in some other direction and never get anywhere.
This one didn't do that.
It felt focused.
One issue. Yeah. It literally him showing up. You get kind of a briefly kind of maybe why does he's leaving because he's getting scolded and picked on and whatnot. He takes this ride down with Beelzebub, which he knows is going to come back to be a reoccurring thing at some point, I would guess. Kind of finds this halfway house kind of thing, and it sets up this initial conflict, and that's the book. It doesn't go off too far in too many different directions. But you're right; it does leave plenty of room in the next couple issues to go all over the place. So
I
we'll
think
see.
I'll probably pick it up because that art looked really nice when I was peeking.
And I like Clarion. I like the Witch Boy. Great Kirby character introduced back in issue 7 or something like that of Demon. So
I think of him as a Grant Morrison character because Kirby maybe did 1 or 2 issues on him. So Grant Morrison's done more.
There's 3 issues. 3 issues with him, and then of course I don't think he existed pretty much at all until Grant Morrison wrote 7 Soldiers, and of course he's one of the 7 Soldiers, and used him there, and then even in the Batman. R.I.P. They mined the world that Clarion is from.
Oh, really? He was kind of like a character that would show up every now and again in books and just kind of be in a one shot and then disappear.
He was kind of a Mixelplick kind of a character, right?
Exactly.
He'd show up as kind of an imp, cause problems, and then disappear. And it really feels like Morrison is actually the person that kind of created a world behind him to prop him up on. So you're right. You're right that's where it comes from.
Now I have a pile of books I want to read.
Any other DC books?
Not that I want to talk about.
Okay, fair enough.
There's a squad.
Like you have in a brown paper bag you don't show anyone.
Yeah, well, there's this squad that's suicidal that I could care less about.
God.
That I'm done with.
Are they extra large? Are they XL?
That's so bad.
What issue is that on?
3.
Oh, wow.
You're surprised it made it that far. No, I can't wait to dig into these independents. So, is there anything else DC?
I don't remember any DC news coming out of New York.
No. Vertigo a little bit, but.
Oh yeah, some Vertigo news for sure. I'll just toss this rumor out there because it sounds like lots of fun. Supposedly in April, when the DC home office is closing down and moving to LA, they're supposedly going to do these kind of one-off issues because the editors can't edit while they're moving or something. I don't know exactly why, but rumored to be there's going to be these kind of odd books show up.
You said April. You meant September, right?
No. It's April. I know you're saying. And every book is going to have Booster Gold in it. Just saying.
Oh.
Okay, so
I can't afford another 52-month.
Let's move on to our independents.
Wait. I have a question. Did they announce when the new issue of Sandman's coming out?
Oh, nope.
No. They do that in the summer.
It's a yearly. Just be patient.
Yes, same in that way.
That's in the summer.
Well, sort of in DC news, I was shocked by the whole Scott Snyder tells DC to lower the price, and then they do.
Oh, yeah, sure, we can talk about that.
Do you think that's really what happened? I mean, it just seems so bizarre. And then
No,
he publicly announces it on Twitter.
That's where I kind of had a problem with that. It seemed a little bit too like, I'm a good guy. You may not like my writing sometimes, but I'm a good guy at the end of the day. I don't know.
He's a good guy.
I think legitimately probably him and Capullo went, oh, we're getting beat up over the price hike.
There you go.
And they went, and I'm sure they probably went to the bosses and went, what can we do? Because we're getting tore up on this thing, and I think there is some bad vibes beyond our little community on the whole 0 year. This maybe might not be wise and whatnot, and I don't know. Take his announcement however you want to. I guess I didn't see anything bad by it. I don't know that he's some massive heavyweight that was like, or I'm quitting. I don't think that was probably ever in the conversation.
He can tell this corporation, I think you should take $75,000 less profit off of my comic a month because I say so.
It just felt like he was running for office or something to me. That's what it came across for. Like, I'm the guy that slashed the book's price, and you should like me.
I believe he'd like a lower price because at Image he's setting his own price and he's making it $2.99.
Right.
Yeah.
But either he doesn't have this power, and it was some kind of theater that they gave him as a favor or something to make him the good guy, or he does have this power, and they are so afraid of losing him that they'll just do anything he says.
And I think it's somewhere in between all that. I don't think it's either one of those. I think it's in between that. I think they do have influence because those two guys sell a hell of a lot of books.
They sell more than anybody.
They sell a hell of a lot of books, so they do have a certain amount of leverage and whatnot for them to go, look, it's awfully hard to spend this kind of money on a comic book. Even our great comic book, it's awfully hard to spend that kind of money on a comic book.
But that's saying I know the marketing better than you do. Your job is to be marketing comics and pricing them, but I'm going to tell you how to do it.
Because they're fans too.
Someone at DC is eating a lot of crow in that case. And to allow him to do that publicly on Twitter, it's just a very odd moment. And
okay.
There's no answer.
I guess I see him as a pretty sincere guy, so I don't feel like.
And on Witches, he really could have made this $3.99, and most people would have bought it, right?
That's true.
So he really chose to do a lower price than like Rick Remender does $3.50 books, and I believe that's his choice.
Yeah.
And they're worth $3.50, but.
Yeah. Matt, what were you going to say about that?
I was going to say, my understanding is that DC doesn't know how to use Twitter from me reading their feed, so maybe they just didn't see it.
That's the funniest thing you've said all night. It's pretty awesome.
Maybe they thought it was the company Twitter telling them to lower the price and not Scott Snyder.
Yes. That is so true.
I don't know. It could have been any mix of things, but it's so backdoor. It's all we can do is guess.
Right. I just feel like I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Witches then?
Do it.
I liked Angelica Houston. Sorry.
It was the last good Jack Nicholson movie.
It certainly was. I have mixed feelings about this, to be honest. I love the art in it. That was awesome. It was really kind of cool and made you feel kind of on edge as you were reading it. It felt to me like I dropped Coffin Hill recently, but to me it felt kind of like Coffin Hill a bit, and so didn't it though?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. The forest, the evil forest, witches, and well, it called Witches and the Evil Forest. Sure.
Yeah,
without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And so
I think Coffin Hill's a better book.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been reading it lately. And so, but it's still, I felt like Coffin Hill did this a little bit better. I get the feeling that they tried to leave it a little bit of a mystery if she has the power to do what she's doing or if it was the forest. I kind of thought that was interesting, but as I was reading this, I was thinking Coffin Hill did all this already and did it better because you really were wondering what's going to happen next. And with this, I really think I've almost spelled it out that it's going to eventually be that the forest is the power and she has no power to begin with.
Did you read the text
Yeah.
part? Because he pretty much tells you what the whole backstory is, which I thought was an odd thing to do, since you want to reveal your backstory through your comic book.
You want to show and not tell in comic books.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, Travis?
I thought it was okay. I mean, it's interesting. I'll be on for a while. But you're right. It has a lot of similarities, and that's kind of what I thought. I mean, I'm interested in the pledge, whatever the heck that is. Obviously, there's some sacrifice of some sense. You get the impression that's going on. I'm curious to know what that is. The whole person in the tree thing. That's eerie and whatnot. I don't know that I'm that interested in the main character and her plight. This person got snatched out from underneath me, and of course she knows the real story, but everybody else doesn't. To me, that seems old. And not old in a traditional ghost story sense, but old as in, it seems like I've seen a lot of slasher films where there's the one person who knows that there's really a monster out there and nobody believes her, kind of thing. Just feels, I don't know, not that unique or special to me, I guess. So I don't know. I mean, I wasn't super excited. I mean, I was excited to read it. I like the art. I like Jock. I like his style of work. The deer barfing up whatever the hell, that was strange. I'm kind of curious about that whole scene, but I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't blown away by this. Like a lot of the people seem to just think it was like,
And I wonder how many of them read Coffin Hill.
I read Coffin Hill and dropped it. And
did you get any tones of that while you were reading this, though?
I don't know what point.
Only when you guys mentioned it, then I thought, yeah, you guys are right. But my problem with Coffin Hill, to the 3 issues that I read, or 4 issues, I think 3, was that I thought it was structured poorly, and I thought this had a much stronger structure.
That's fair.
The art was really good. It is a very familiar classic horror story, and it seemed to have a lot of elements that came right out of Stephen King novels, like the character who's an author, and the bully. In Stephen King, there's always an evil bully who's just evil and just a bully.
It wasn't in Maine, though, so...
That's true. It was in New Hampshire. That's far from Maine. Yeah.
Yes.
In Maine, they have taxes, and in New Hampshire, they don't.
Yes.
And the bully, that whole thing with the bully, I mean, there's bullies, and then this person was psychotic. I mean, beyond bully, and they don't give you anything to tell us why is she, I mean, other than they once they start investigating this girl that disappeared, she obviously had lots of issues, whatever the hell they were. Clearly she has issues. She's pistol whipping somebody and is going to make them strip down and have sex with a dagger. So, obviously they went for high shock value and the whole sense of that may be happening. But I don't know.
And that's classic horror novel stuff where there's just someone who's just damn evil.
Where you don't mind when they bite the bullet.
Right. And I think at the end, that's her come back, right? That's her corpse?
I think so.
Up in the tree?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
The art and the color is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on it for a while. But it does feel like it's not covering any unfamiliar ground at all.
Right. Right now, there's nothing that makes me go, oh, there was no. I guess what I wanted it to be in the first issue with a horror type book. I wanted to set something up and let me have a moment where I go, oh shit, and there wasn't anything there in that made me feel that way. Even the creepy person at the end, the beginning was the best part. The lady with her nose like chopped off or bit off, stuck in there, and then suddenly having seemingly her own kid clock her in the head because the pledge is a pledge. That was the only moment that made me go, oh shit. Otherwise there wasn't anything in it that punched it up to make me super excited by the book.
I think crossing out the definition of witches was his attempt at being kind of more radical or something, but then when he explained it at the back of the book, it just didn't seem that profound.
I'll have to go back and read it. This is the one time I was pressed for time. I didn't read the back issue.
It tells us
everything.
The idea of witches is the witches are this otherworldly force that inhabits the forest, and the people that have been called witches are people who are just doing their bidding or something like that. So that's an okay horror idea, but it's not like some profound thing.
Yeah, but now that I've told me that now I don't need to know anything about the forest because I just got told it, right?
Right.
Yeah, you guys are right.
You don't need to learn it through the comic book. You just read the text. I think this would be a great horror comic for someone who'd never read a horror novel or a horror comic before.
Yeah.
We're just old and seasoned, and so therefore, huh?
But most people, I mean, horror is such a common genre.
Yeah.
Well, I was really interested to pick this up, but I took one glance at it, and I'm like, there's no way that this isn't going to be infinitely better as a trade. Read it. It'll probably only last 3 trades worth, just put it off.
I don't know if that will be the case, to be honest. I don't know if it'll be better in trade necessarily than it will be in single issue, but...
Maybe it will have one half in the present, and then it will flash forward to 300 years in the future.
Oh, yeah. Except for the first 5 issues of this don't hold so far. Well, issue 1 does not hold up like issue 1 of that did. So there you go. That was a great horror. That was a great horror story. Those first issues of the Wake. Yeah.
I need to get those.
We're gonna keep going back and picking on that for a long time, aren't we?
I would have been so happy if I could have just told myself, stop here, just stop.
No kidding.
Yeah. Did anyone else? I don't know if I should, but Birthright.
Go ahead, Sleep. You read it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. What did you think?
I thought it was so weird to have kind of these similar, woods kind of being mysterious, kind of right next to each other, but it seemed like it was taking 2 different genres, kind of mashing them together, and it almost looks like this is going to be a fantasy book disguised as a horror book at first. I mean, that guy's life falls apart, and then all of a sudden... You didn't read it, Travis?
I thought it was going to be a dark fantasy book. That's one of the reasons I didn't pick it up.
Really?
So...
Well, that's what everybody said. You're not getting that?
Starts out if it's a horror book, becomes a fantasy book, and then maybe is becoming a horror book again?
Yeah. Because towards the end, the very last page there, I don't think they had to do that. He clearly had been through a lot where he would be a completely... It almost seemed like a stereotypical movie from the early 90s where he was going to be a warrior trying to fit in with society now that he's so... I wanted to go in that direction.
If it had gone in that direction, but they pushed it to they added another level of a twist that I thought.
He's almost Damien, not you, but the Open Damien, in that sense, where he's the chosen one and all that. And, you kind of get tricked into thinking, you don't know that he went there for noble purposes. You kind of think that because he's the chosen one and he's here. They might be the bad guys from the get-go, and I didn't even piece that together until I read that last page. It's interesting, and it's a different take. I mean, I liked it better than Witches.
I'm pretty gripped because I like fantasy stories, and so I'm really happy to have a fantasy story turned on its head this way.
Yeah.
I feel like, it can't be sure yet, but I feel like it's probably going to have 2 threads, one kind of the horror story in our world, and one showing us some flashbacks to the dark fantasy story that the person experienced in the past of the end of this book.
You can tell it's a good read when you're done and you're like, I want more of what. Give me more. I got that with this, which I didn't get with Witches necessarily. Where's this going?
So tell me the setup for this book, because what's the setup for as far as
I'm worried about the setup isn't complete till the last page, so I don't know if I can completely spoil it.
So you're reading
but the basic setup is a boy chases after a ball into the dark woods
on his birthday.
On his birthday, his father's busy chatting with his mom on his cell phone, and he eventually wanders into the woods to look for his son, and his son has disappeared. and they search and search for his son for years, and then they accuse the father of murder. He becomes a drunk. His wife divorces him. And then they find this guy who's a grown-up, dressed like Arnold Schwarzenegger from Conan or something.
Nice. Crom!
Who all their scientific evidence proves is their son, even though it's only been 3 years or something.
Yeah, fingerprints.
Okay.
Like, do you remember Flight of the Navigator? It's just like that, but in reverse.
Oh.
And so then he tells a tale of his epic upbringing as the chosen one who is there to kill the evil lord, and now he has killed the evil lord, and so they've sent him back to our world. But there are some of the evil lord's lieutenants have, according to him, snuck into our world, and he still wants to kill those people.
It's pretty
But
cool.
all of that's a lie.
Yeah.
So already given away too much, probably.
Yeah, there's a twist at the end that you're like, okay.
Well, it
Because
sounds
you-
interesting to me.
Yeah, it's so funny because you feel like you could go to the writer and be like, you didn't even have to do that. This is such a twist on so many genres already, but then you threw that last twist at the end. It was like,
Okay, gonna have to go to the chain store and pick up a comic.
it was a Flight of the Navigator reference, admit it.
Okay.
I think it was my second favorite book of the week.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. I'm gonna have to check it out then.
My
Sure.
favorite was one I didn't think would be my
Matt,
favorite.
what'd you read this week in independent books?
Independent? Who
You're
reads those?
None of us do. None of us do.
Um.
I just read comics.
Okay. Well, I read Atomic Robo Knights of the Golden Circle 4 of 5,
Nice.
and I'm dropping Atomic Robo.
That's shocking.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
shocking.
You're the
Matt
atomic robot
talked
guy.
about it so
I know, and this is a book where the background scene of it kind of leads me to believe why I know what's going on, because this book started as this quirky tale. It played with a bunch of different things. It had a lot of cool, high-minded jokes. It was a lot of humor without, dick and fart jokes. It was something
Now you're
else.
dropping it?
So I'm dropping it for that.
Yeah,
No.
'cause it doesn't. Yeah, 'cause it doesn't have.
But as time went on, this book just dried up and became what I'd assume of more or less your average webcomic. Just kind of trotting along. And I know for a fact that, the creators behind this are doing a Comixology-only series as well, working on a role-play book that just came out. There's a video game and all this other stuff. And it's clear their time's divided. And I feel like it would have been better if they just put the book away for a while and came back to it and they had something to tell. But this is just...
Go
Tell
through
that
the
to
motions.
Charles Soule. Tell that to Charles Soule.
But just going through the motions. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so... I don't know. So I feel like I'm just kind of done with this book, which really hurts me, because I know for a fact this is the only thing I pick up from Red 5 Comics, which is a publisher I'd like to see stick around, because they do some cool, nifty stuff, but this is the book that they kind of hang on more than anything else. And, hopefully they'll be able to make it, but I can't imagine I'm the only one coming to this conclusion, because it's not like I had a huge taste change or something all of a sudden. I'm just reading this book, and I'm like, everything I used to like about this book is just no longer present.
That's truly an independent comic book, so...
Yeah. So, there you be.
So was anyone else disappointed with Black Science too?
Yes.
Not so disappointed that I would drop it or anything.
No.
No, not that. We're not talking crazy
I feel
talk
like
here.
maybe I'll understand this issue better by next issue.
Yeah.
Really?
Talk about every issue.
No, well, see, no. The thing
Really?
is this? It's a good comic, and every issue has really been fulfilling. And I felt like this one was kind of a lull. It didn't take you anywhere or do anything really, and you weren't sure if anything mattered by the time it was all done.
Right. For me, except for the last little part of this, it didn't feel like that even what was in this was going to have relevance necessarily moving forward. I don't know. The fact that we know that the one character has a twin that obviously drowned in the well or something like that, I don't know. That seemed way out of. That seemed very random to suddenly be back at the camp with the adults. She has this dream and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's to me seemed really This was a story full of backstory that I'm not,
Sure was even real.
I don't feel like the next issue is going to, other than the Grant part, that feels like it's going to have serious bearings in the next. I don't know.
And having the children being saved because people recognize their symbol on them, I feel like we've already done that somewhere in this series.
Well, yeah, but they've also kind of implied that these people have already hopped all over the onion that is the universe, and so they've tainted it. I mean, didn't we get some implication in the first arc from the other mother? Going to try and snatch them up. We were given some little information there that they've already they're tainting all of these other dimensions, and so I'm assuming that's maybe part of that. But
the Indian shaman has also chimed in with that.
Right, that this whole kind of thing has been going on for a while now. But yeah, I mean, I didn't hate this issue by any means, but all of the issues up to this point, 8 issues before this, have been firing on all cylinders for me. It's like they've been excited, and this was none of those things. I still like the art.
Oh yeah.
But I had some issue. I don't know.
But I didn't even
really let me down.
Yeah, but I didn't even open this up. I didn't even open this issue up and go, "Oh wow, there's a cool creature." In every issue, I've opened it up and went, "Oh wow, that's a cool." Yeah, I don't know.
But I could forgive them the lack of a new cool creature. It was more the feeling of. This is the first issue that felt like an in-between issue with just setting various things up and without its own core. So they're suffering. They're doing here what most comics do a lot, but they haven't done before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's not. I wouldn't be dropping this anytime soon. There's no way. But no, it's more or less. Yeah, this is easily forgiven. I would never.
So, did you have something you wanted to add to that, man?
Oh, not really. I have a real problem with Black Science, and it's my problem. I can't hold it against the book, but every time I pick up an issue, I can't remember what happened, and so I have to look back, and I can't keep it in my head. It's interesting, but I have the roughest time with that book. I have no reading comprehension for it, so I almost feel remiss to comment on it too much. So.
Is it because it's really flashy? Because to me, it feels like a very flashy book. It's very,
It jumps so much, I can't keep what's going on in my head. It doesn't jump through worlds in a way that's concrete to me. Exiles, really stuck out to me, and each world felt like something. Here, because there's no grounding, the characters were barely established when we started and whatnot. Every time they jump, they're like, "This is a new world with crazy aliens." I'm like. To me, they could have jumped a continent. It would have been the same thing, but now it's a new world with all these different rules, and because there's not much continuity for me, I just can't key into it. So,
and I felt like every issue has helped flesh out the characters. We get some piece of back history that adds layers. I mean, even though Grant's been gone for a few issues. Seeing his kids remembering him help fill out his personality, fill out what kind of a person he was, in the world and stuff. And it's worked up until this issue. This issue, the kind of backstory we've gotten for each one of these people, like the whole Becca thing with her having the twin, that I don't understand how that fills in her who she is and whatnot. There wasn't enough story in this issue for it to tie in and make sense in the issue. And so far, every issue kind of has seemed to have done that.
Well, and I had forgotten the names of the kids, so I thought this was at first I thought it was a flashback to the kids, the children of the hero. So that threw me off just in the start of the issue, and then finding out it's all a dream too. That always annoys me a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that for this issue, it was not just a dream. Because, they're jumping worlds so much, and, her having this revelation about how she feels about a potential... That's the thing, is, how she feels about a potential thing. Because they're multiverse jumping. So dealing with any instance of something that could happen and her emotional reaction to that is essentially just as real as if they jumped to another world where that happened. in
Maybe
a way.
it's set up for her meeting her twin in another world or something. But.
Right. That's part of my problem, though, is everything's so ethereal, is that, like, almost anything in this book could have been a dream or not been a dream, and you could tell me one way or another, and I'd be like, okay, it's just so fluid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this book could run into problems that Matt's kind of indicating already down the line if it gets too many iterations of too many characters and anybody can be anything and all that. But hopefully he'll avoid that trap.
What other indie books we want to talk about?
My comic book of the week, Sabrina.
All right.
Hang on.
Different cover.
Yeah. I loved this, actually. I didn't think I would, but it was really good. I was surprised because I read Witches, and then I read this, and I said, this is the comic book I wanted with Witches.
Nice.
Which is crazy. Because I skipped Afterlife with Archie. I picked up the trade, and I enjoyed it. It was different and all that. This was actually really good and really dark. It was just messed up. What did you think, Matt?
This for me was more paired with Batgirl in a way.
Really?
In my mind, because well, you're dealing with this like feminine character, new take, right? But the difference was this is a new take and a new spin, and this is a really well done comic.
Yeah.
I'm just not picking it because I don't care about high school.
I'm wondering how far that's going to go with it, because I'm seeing all these other implications, like the father and all of that. Did you think she had figured out by then that he was what he had gone through, or do you think she was still in the dark by the end of that? What happened to her dad?
I think I mean, she can't be completely in the dark, right? Because she's living in this world, so she has to assume something was up. But whether or not she knows exactly what that was,
and I want to find out really if the ants are good or bad, because they kind of are messed up in some parts in this, and then in other parts they're kind of loving and caring for her, and you're kind of lost there. And I liked that the smart ass was the cat.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of always been the case, though. Like that's Salem. Yeah. And
I never before this.
Well, I watched the TV show.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for that.
For me to out myself.
Yes. But no, it was just really well written. Wouldn't you agree with that? It was really well written, and I liked the art.
It was brilliantly written, and the art isn't just good. The way that the story is told through the art, and the way that the colors set the tone. Like, this is a beautifully produced comic, and the way it calls back to old horror comic conventions, but done in a modern style. Like, this is a really masterfully well done comic. There's really no faults in my mind with it. And it's only elevated by the fact that in the back matter, I heard this was a reprinting of an old Sabrina comic, and seeing the juxtaposition, what they've done with the character versus
I liked that.
They're really playing with, not the TV show, really just made it stick out and become all the more interesting.
Yeah, this was awesome. I was thoroughly surprised at how good it was.
Well, actually, do you know if this is supposed to be an ongoing or a mini?
I thought it was an ongoing.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, too.
Yeah. And so,
I mean, it was get it till I saw the artwork. I was kind of put off by the artwork. It looked very like black and white artwork that was slightly colored or something.
Yeah, that's why I kind of liked it. It reminded me of an old Turner classic. But like, and it's cool because it fits with the time periods that it takes place in. It kind of has that feel to it. I will admit, I think Matt's criticism is correct of the high school aspect. I would almost be happy if that was completely removed and you just had her kind of dealing with the situation. The situation she's dealing with in general in her life is interesting enough. She's got a really kind of interesting backstory and all that. And the high school thing was kind of just, I guess it's okay, but...
Well, I need to give it a
Going to
second.
high school for magic or to Riverdale?
Oh, I am so glad they didn't do that. I was worried about that. No, she's in Riverdale.
Because they do have a version. I've read a lot of Sabrina with my daughter, and they do have a version where she goes to a magic school in another dimension.
No.
Sometimes she's at Riverdale.
Was that when Harry Potter was being big, or?
I don't know, because everything we read was these digital packages.
But because in one sense the ants are kind of, you're wondering if her best interests at heart or if they have some sinister plan. But in another sense, this bully kind of picks on her, and one of the ants goes and turns into a giant tarantula and chases the kid around. So you're kind of wondering, like, what? Yeah.
How could you not love that panel?
It's awesome.
Well, and what's really cool, too, is they have this nice touch where you'd say, you know, thank God, thank Jesus, whatever. They're like, thank Beelzebub, thank Satan, you know. And I really should give this book another shot, because I had the same worry about Deadly Class, actually, with it being a little too high school academy, whatever. And that book barely exists there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was surprised how much I liked this. I liked it better than Afterlife with Archie.
I wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah.
I did enjoy the book. I just prefer Afterlife for Archie because the way that they're playing with things, I think, is a little more...
The art in Afterlife with Archie can't be touched, but...
That's part of it, too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but...
What really shocked me about this is, despite what they're doing, what it is, this is a different book than Afterlife with Archie.
Yeah.
It has, obviously, some tonal similarities and whatnot, but this is a different book.
Yeah. I was just surprised. I mean, I can't say enough good about it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Speaking of comics that have been good up to this point, but then kind of had a disappointing issue, Sex Criminals. Did anyone else read this?
Yep. You didn't care for it?
It just felt like nothing happened in this. Really?
Okay, we're on issue what now? 8?
8.
Aren't about half of them that though? You feel like something happens in every issue?
Yeah, I feel like I learned more about the characters, and I felt like this was kind of tacked together. Let's introduce this new character and kind of, I don't know, it didn't feel like it flowed naturally at all. I'm not saying it completely sucked, it just wasn't as good as previous issues.
See, I go back and forth on this book all the time. After like the first 2 issues of it, I'll be reading and I'll go, okay, this book's finally venturing someplace. Whatever. And then somebody says something, or an idea is brought forward, and I'm like, I'm going to keep on the book because that's just enough.
Yeah.
They're kind of, despite the ridiculous, despite the spectacle that this book generates, which it does, that's got its own cult following of stuff that I feel like doesn't have really anything to do with the damn book itself, and the story that's being told and how the story is being crafted, which is great. I mean, that's great for those creators. They're going to be able to ride this thing for quite some time, I think, just based on that. Awesome. But I want the actual comic to be telling me something too, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But it still is exploring stuff that no other comic is exploring, and I end up being sucked in and happy to read that just because it's kind of there. I mean, I think they took. I don't know if there was necessarily a reason for them to give us, every type of birth control there is out there available. Because I think anybody who's reading this book probably has some concept of all those different.
It goes into ridiculous detail.
Right. Which I'm not offended by that. I'm not embarrassed by that. I'm not any of those things. But I just don't. I don't see how playing with that did anything fun.
It cracked me up, I'm not gonna lie.
The only line about it that I thought was fun, whereas when she makes the comment, "Well, I'm one of those too," so is that birth control? I think it's funny. I have my own family personal experience with failures on some of those birth controls that were listed, so I think that was funny for my own personal, perspective. That's pretty funny, but
we've all been there to some degree.
So
now you're on record.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, that was amusing from a personal standpoint. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I inevitably read the book and I ebb and flow so hard in this book more than I do any other book I read.
I'm the exact same way.
Either I read all the way through a book and I don't like it, or I don't care for it, or it's kind of or I read a book and I enjoy it, or whatever. And this book, I literally can go page to page and go, oh, that's awesome, that's, and so, I don't know, I'm going to keep reading it because
it has these little moments that keep you on it, though.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it's the overall package, which is weird.
No, it's just that there are these things that get delivered in it that you go, oh, that's so on. That's so... You hit a moment somehow that still just makes it, I guess, cool enough or whatever that I'm going to keep reading the darn thing.
It's so weird because I wonder, because I have the first printing of the first issue, how much that's going to be worth one day considering how many printings they did. But other than that...
Yeah. I mean, I like the ending of it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I like the fact they keep bringing back in the sex police. I love the fact they're all standing there basically looking at them going, F you, as they rip the library down, knowing full well that library is so important to Susie, and of course then in turn important to the boyfriend. But
I'm wondering where they're going to go with this too. That's kind of why I'm going to stick with it, to be honest. I want to know where it's going to go, because that was a big aspect of the first real arc of that, was them trying to save the library. Right. And now they kind of show in the last panel of this that they didn't do so. So I'm wondering what the next arc is going to be.
I'm worried that they don't have a clue. To be quite honest, I'm worried that it's going to be that now they're just kind of they're in their own minutia, just kind of floating around in what kind of stuff can I? I'm afraid that the letters column, which is like 6 or 7 pages long, and it is its own entity. I mean, right? It's basically become its own thing, which is cool. That's cool. Not for me, but it's cool. That's going to leak into the book itself more. I'm worried that it's going to do more fan service than whatever their own vision is. I do think it's pretty funny that the therapist in here, the second therapist, the therapist that the guy talks to in the lunchroom, it's the artist. It's the artist with the beard. It's literally him. He drew himself.
It's so weird, because I'm wondering how much I can palate the fact that a lot of this is riding on hype from things that are completely outside of it. Yeah. I could. That's one thing I will say. I could see this going completely downhill, but somehow sticking around because of how much hype is around it.
Oh, without doubt.
And so.
And I just got to figure out for myself where is that going to be at, because like I said, I'll get partway into the book every single issue and go, okay, I think this is it. This is the issue that I'm not signing on anymore. I don't hate it, but it's it's a spendy book and it's not really doing the things I want to do. And then something. I can't put my finger on it, but something will come in and go,
It touches on something, like you said it earlier, it touches on something that I can read 40 modern comics out there, independent, what have you. It touches on things that no one else touches on. Right. And it does so in a way that I don't think a lot of people have the guts to do. Mm-hmm. And so it pulls you in that way. I think I'm with you in the sense that neither of us are really giving into the hype of the book either, though. Neither of us are really going along for that ride.
Right. 20 years ago, this would have been a blue book. 20 years ago, this would have been a book that would have been stuck back with, if your shop has that room that has the adult books in it, they would be there, 100%. Would be there. It gets talked about in mainstream comics now, so.
That's
I wish they would get better covers, though. I'm really not liking the covers.
What the hell?
I don't know.
It looks like a pro wrestler.
I'm just not savvy enough or something. I don't know.
Well, I only have one more that I've read. Does anyone else reading the Grant Morrison?
I haven't. I got issue 1 of Annihilator today and read it, and
it's awesome.
Oh my God! I'm like, I call the chain store. Of course, they don't have number 2, so I have to figure out where to get number 2. You guys can go ahead and talk about it. I absolutely love number 1. Number 1 to me felt like, well, I love Fraser Irving's art anyway. I just like his style. I know some people don't, but I really liked it. It has this kind of Philip K. Dick feel to it to me, because you've got this mad, crazed guy with brain cancer seeming who's tapped into who knows what, maybe something that's real or not, writing this fever dream, this story that's coming into him while, crazy drug sex orgies are going on around him and stuff. And he's got a hole in his yard that you could drop things into, and you never hear him hit the bottom, and maybe something crawled out. I don't know. So go ahead, talk about number 2, because number 1 was
number 2
awesome.
twice as good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All the stuff that was there in number 1 just became incredibly good in number 2, and I wasn't sure if Morrison was kind of doing an okay book before, but with this issue, I feel like he's refining and taking the Morrison-ness and the Philip K. Dick-ness to a new level that is just really incredible.
It's so I don't know if we should spoil too much about it, but it's some of his I maybe hyperbole a little bit here, but it's some of his best work I've read in a long time. I mean, it's just on point.
It's probably hard to spoil because would be so hard to describe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. I'll be reading it anyway. I don't think you're gonna.
I think that we've for a long time kind of lowered the standards on books like this and accepted some kind of less subpar stuff in this area, I would say. And this just sets the bar high. It's so good.
Yeah, and Fraser Irving can be kind of up and down for me, but he's really winning me over here. He's just perfect for this book.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to come across for people because it is it's a different publisher than I think.
I didn't know it had come out this week, and my regular store apparently didn't have it or forgot that I wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wandered into my cooler comic book store that's far away from my house and saw
the cooler one is always
there. So it says Legendary. I mean, Legendary is a film.
Yeah.
Isn't Legendary a film?
Mm-hmm.
So
and they're in the process of releasing 3 comic book series.
Mm.
I saw it on their website. I don't think they even mentioned them in the comic book.
So yeah, it's a.
I mean, I don't know. Like I said, the setup for the first issue, whether it's a story or it's reality of this guy, in a science fiction place set out in basically a prison that's on the edge of the center of the universe that's got the Annihilator, this crushing black hole and whatnot. And I don't know. It was. And like I said, the crazed writer sitting at home in L.A. who buys the most haunted house he can possibly find, and he's, washed up, it was so Philip K. Dickian. I've been kind of chomping at the bit, thinking someone needs to write some of this style of comics need to be out there, and it just feels like nobody's really doing that. And I don't know. Halfway through that first issue, I was like, oh my, here it is.
And it seems like Morrison is going to give us the whole movie.
Yeah.
Not just pretend the guy's writing a movie but not show it to us. He's going to show us the whole movie. This issue has an incredible interleaving of the scenes of the movie and the scenes of the character from the movie urging the screenwriter to get on with the next scene, and which could be a cliche, but it's just done so well. Did you think when these black-coated FBI guys show up, I wasn't sure if that was purely real or not real.
Yeah,
How did you feel about that?
It's weird because that speaks to the flow of the book. Where I think Black Science has kind of had trouble in that department, I like that it's doing that in this, where you're kind of lost in a good way. You let this kind of take you for the ride, even though I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Well, see, I almost thought that for the first issue when the FBI suddenly shows up, because he's pulled over by the regular cops first, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the FBI's there. To me, that seemed really random. But like I said, as soon as it clicked into me that like I said, it feels to me like a Philip K. Dick type thing. This could all be hallucination. I mean, the cops could have pulled him over. That part's a reality. But with this brain tumor going on, how much is he hallucinating versus what's lucid? How much of this is actual reality versus his brain playing with him and whatnot.
Yeah, so if you're not liking his multiversity, I would definitely say this is far superior. So.
So completely
far
different. Yeah.
spicier.
So,
I love that in the first issue where he's constantly people are calling him because his name is spelled like Spaz or something like that.
Right.
And he's like, no, that's space as in, as in outer, and ray as in light. I don't know. I just thought it was funny because it's not like it's written any different. You read it the first time and it's, Spas or whatever, and he's always correcting people. I thought that was just a funny little quirk.
As I was reading it, I was trying to decide if Spaz and Max Nomax, his fictional character who appears, if they are physically both have the same face, but Spaz is so racked by bad health that he looks older and more worn out, but they're really underneath the same face.
Yeah.
Hard to be sure. That's one thing with the art, and
Fraser's art. Yeah.
Irving's art's rather inconsistent in faces. But I think that they may have the same face, but just with different haircuts and having in a different point in life.
yeah.
This is what, a 6-issue story?
Sorry?
Is this like a 6-issue story?
It's a limited. So
yeah, I'm not sure whether it's 6 or 8 issues. I love in the science fiction story, the movie, that script that he's writing, there's this robot teddy bear that follows Max Nomax around everywhere.
Oh, yeah, they introduced it in the first issue, and I thought it was kind of eerie.
He makes really good use of that robot teddy bear throughout.
It's one of those ones where if you were in the car with someone driving somewhere and you're trying to explain it to them, I just wonder how you would do something like that. And that's why I like it. I think that's a sign of a good comic because it's visual. It's so visual that you can't describe it really well to somebody.
Yeah.
And I complain about 3.99 comic books, but I would pay $5 for this one.
Yeah.
It was 32 pages on really good paper, no ads, lots of story.
It earned it.
Yeah, so this was definitely my favorite book of the week.
Yeah, that was... I forgot that you guys read that. I thought I was the only one reading that, so...
Well, I don't know how I missed it. I didn't even know it existed until last month when you guys kind of brought it up. I'm like, wait a second. A Grant Morrison book came out with Fraser Irving doing artwork, and somehow I don't know. I mean, well, I guess because it was done by this company, and so when I go to actually sit down and order my comics, it would never occur to me to look in their catalog to see what was there, and so I missed it. So, but
they didn't promote it in advance enough for you to discover it, and there wasn't much promotion of this second issue coming out. I didn't even bug my comic book shop about why they didn't have it.
Yeah, but man, something else. Ugh. Good stuff. Anybody read this?
I haven't read it yet.
Punks.
I will let you talk about it. I'll be back in a second.
I thought it was a lot of fun. Nothing to buy and take serious in any way. It's not like it's telling some greater story. It's none of that. This is a zine more so than a comic, as far as it's just telling a quirky little goofy kind of thing. To me, I read the whole thing going, this is The Young Ones, for anybody who's familiar with the British sitcom The Young Ones, where it's a bunch of kind of punk or anti-establishment people all living in the same house. They're all idiots, basically, of one degree or another. What they do makes no sense, and it's just goofy and fun. I thought it was fun. I had a fun time reading it. I'll keep reading it as long as they keep putting it out, I think, unless it's the same trope every time. But there's just goofy stuff in here. Of course, it's not. The artwork is literally, it's collaged. It's cut out things and stuff, and it's got ridiculous flaming, dick punches in it, and there's card games in it. There's mazes in it, and most of it is iconoclastic in a punk sense, in that it's all kind of in your face. And Punks is a good title for it because it doesn't do it in a fake way. I mean, I think it's attacking the stuff that it's attacking and not being commercial about it, I guess. So I don't know how long this book will last. I mean, I think everybody will be on board. Just a lot of people will be on board to start out just because it's something different. How long people will hang around on it, I'll be curious to see exactly how that works out and whatnot. But I thought it was fun as just something that's just completely random and different, and that's really what it is. It's not like I'm looking forward to issue 2 because it's going to tell me the rest of the story, because that's not the case. There is no real story. The first little bit that's in this is a short story of the dog character saying, "Hey, I got a girlfriend that's coming over," and then it digresses into all kinds of stupidity as he gets basically punched up into the attic and is smashing gnomes that are coming out, garden gnomes that are coming out of the attic. He kills a bunch of them and just random stuff. The bottom half of his body falls off and gets married to this lizard woman that the rest of them are misogynistic and treat poorly, and I don't know, it's completely random. Whatever.
So we could probably pick up random issues if we happen to be in the mood.
Yeah, because there's not going to be, I can't imagine there's going to be anything in it that's oh my god, I need to see the last issue to know what's going on in the next issue. And I can't envision it lasting for a very long time, but we'll see. I don't know. Depends on where they go with it, as far as if they're going to actually continue to try to push buttons of some sort. And I'll be curious to see that, whether or not that's the case. Speaking of Coffin Hill, I did get the latest issue of Coffin Hill, issue 12. I will say right now, I hate these covers. These defying covers, the story on the cover. I've decided after when I first heard about it, like, well, that's kind of cool. It's another page of story, right? No, I don't care. I like having an actual visual cover, I guess. This cover actually is really inconsistent, because this cover, the story starts out in 2012, back before before Eve has the blown eye and all the tattoos. But if you look at it really closely, the first panel, the cover artist wasn't told that she actually has the messed up eye and the tattoos. So the continuity's screwed up there. But otherwise, I'm still really loving it. It's telling both the story of her, how she caught the ice fisher, and what happened to get her in the trouble that she's in now, to where she gets shot in the head and all that kind of stuff that happens to her. Plus the current story where some witch hunters have come into Coffin Hill and they're trying to kill all the witches. So I'm not going to go into great detail on it, but I'm still really enjoying it. The art continues to be awesome. There's a huge reveal at the end of it that will make things all kinds of crazy, I think. But I don't know. That's pretty cool.
What issue are they on now?
12.
And I haven't been paying too much attention to people's reviews on it. I'm sorry, but after I dropped it, I was curious if they revealed more. Have you had a good sense over these 12 issues of all the backstory and everything coming out?
Yeah, I didn't drop it too long ago, and yeah, they start filling in a lot of the blanks that you have early on.
Mm-hmm. In the first 6 issues, they tell more of the story that has to do with that immediate, girls that disappeared and whatnot. You get some of her back history. You get obviously the back history of the triangle relationship with the people that are left alive after the whole horrible thing that happened in the woods. Kind of ties up that to some degree, but you get the impression that there's still some thing out there in the woods or whatever that's still this lingering evil of some sort. We get the next arc, which now is encompassing more of what happened to her. That first issue, that confusing scene where she's shot in the head and you don't know exactly what's going on. Now we're dealing more with her past of her being a policeman and this whole incident that happened because she's been arrested for having either made disappear or killed this one detective. And so you're getting her backstory there while she's also staying in prison. Somebody's trying to kill her magically in prison. And the police chief's older brother has come back into town, and he hates witches. He's got himself tied in with some witch hunters, and they're going to just totally F up all of Coffin Hill, the city of Coffin Hill. They're going to just, because there's kind of lineage of multiple witches in the area, not just the Coffin Hill family. There are some other witches, and they're just going to go in and purge the place in a very violent fashion, and so they're trying to stop all that from happening.
I could see going back to it in trades someday, like when I know that there's a lot of trades and I can know that I'll be getting a lot of information.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm doing exactly, actually.
Yeah. I'm still, like I said, I'm still really enjoying it. I think it tells enough of both stories to not get me lost or feel like I'm being hung out to dry on one part of the story too much. And I still am just really high on the art. I still think the art is just...
Yeah, that art was amazing.
Is absolutely amazing. It still works because they tonally change it just a little bit between the artist and the coloring of it, past and future, and when there's some magic actually and when there's some witchcraft actually operating versus not and stuff. I'm still really keen on it. So, yeah.
Well, I also read Ragnarok, issue 2 by Walt Simonson. Mm-hmm. Definitely appearing to just be a footnote to his career. Thor creator. This whole issue is just a fight in Thor's tomb. Thor comes back to life and kills a bunch of people, thus the hammer covered in blood, and then the issue ends. So
Psycho Thor.
Simonson is not putting much work into this, I'd say. At least on the plot level.
Sounds like it's coming from a chip on his shoulder more than anything else.
Reading this made me realize that lately most of the comics I read are not so decompressed. They tend to have more going on per issue lately, and I've come to expect that again. And when it is incredibly decompressed, it really stands out to me.
Is it almost the irredeemable take on Thor?
You can't tell yet what take it is on him.
Okay.
Irredeemable is awesome.
Because it's moving that slow.
It's moving so slow. In this issue, you get a mummified Thor. So Ragnarok has already happened. All the gods are supposedly dead. But there's this of Thor's body that some people have been sent to kill. And they fail to kill. He kills them all. And one of them says, who he feels was really brave, says, protect my daughter. Don't let her get sent to hell or something like that. And he says, oh, you were brave. Okay, I'll do that. And that's the entire issue. So the interesting angle is it takes place after Ragnarok. All the gods have been killed, and there's a new reality. Yeah, my main thought on it was, hey, a lot of the books I read are not so decompressed these days. There was a lot, like in Birthright, there was a lot in Birthright. There was a lot in Batgirl. There was a lot in a lot of other things. Future's End is extremely compressed, or, always packs a lot in every issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, in general, a good trend in comics lately.
Sure.
Any other indies up your sleeve, Travis?
Oh, I've still got lots more.
I have lots more I have to read.
Copperhead.
Awesome.
I'd like to comment on that.
I love it. It hits. Did you not realize this was out, Matt?
I missed that. Oh wow.
It so hits the Western nail on the head, but isn't so trope to make me go, oh my god. I mean, it's got the drunk doctor in it. The only doctor in town. Of course, he's an alcoholic. And he's doing surgery while he's hammered, which is all stereotypical crap. But I don't know. I read it and I go, this just reminds me of all of those TV shows and all of those movies I watched as a kid that have to do with westerns. I love it. Plus, there's a mystery in it. There's some mysterious characters besides those, I don't know, tropes or typical things you'd find in a western that for whatever reason it doesn't bother me that it's a given that that's what it's going to be. But we got this other mystery going on too that's in it. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the art in it. Just a fun book. So if you like westerns, it works.
And I do.
And then you got some freaky aliens on top of it. But I don't know. I mean, there's seems to be a plot. One of the part of the mystery that's going on is that the alien aspect of it might be important. But it would work. Like I said, it works as a western, even if there aren't these other aliens. They're like other races, or not even that, treated like, whatever. So, I don't know. It's cool. I like it. I also read the October faction, which it's a retired monster hunter, a thrill killer, a warlock, and a witch. Sometimes crazy is the glue that binds the family together. This is an IDW book. Steve Niles and Damian Worm. These two guys also did that Frankenstein book that was Frankenstein and the Jack the Ripper, 3-issue, whatever it was. I didn't get that. I thought I would jump on this. Sometimes I like Steve Niles' horror. Some of it works and some of it doesn't. I don't know exactly what I think of this first issue. Art-wise, I liked it, but at points it was almost too dark. It's so dark, it's visually hard to recognize what's going on in some of the stuff. So there is that. It has some interesting points in it. You kind of get a taste of the father and the son's personality, a very small piece of the daughter's personality, and almost none of the wife. The wife just seems to be potentially some cheating person. I don't know exactly what her is going to be in this story, or even exactly what the story is actually going to be about in this first issue, other than there's this family, and they obviously all deal in the occult in some fashion. The two kids seem to be wanting to be monster hunters, because Dad was a monster hunter at one point. Now he's a college professor. The kids actually summon up some ghost or demon that's haunting their house and trap it, so they can prove to Dad. It seems like they're going to try and prove to Dad that, look, they've got the chutzpah to get into the family business, and that's kind of where it's left at. So I don't know. It didn't give me enough to be so excited about it to tell people they should rush out and get it, or not get it, for that matter. So, yeah. I also read Ape Sapien. It's a great cover. Which was interesting. Continues to fill in Abe's story and Abe's quest to try and figure out who the heck he is. He gets this pretty serious earful from the companion that's following along with him in this issue. I'm not sure he has a real direction right now. He's kind of decided to shut up and just kind of go with the flow of what's going on, because anytime he's decided they should go to this place and do this thing, it's kind of really blown up in his face. So he's kind of lost again right now as far as what his quest should be. I'm still really enjoying it. The art is still great, Magnolia Universe type style type art, and yeah, I don't know. Still enjoying it.
Did anybody read this one?
Ghosted? No.
Nope. I did.
Well,
what did you think?
Well, this one pulled me back in a big way. The opening page is this big thing about, like, I remember my first shootout and this whole deal about, like, bullets are flying everywhere, but no one got shot because nobody can aim worth a damn. And it was this crazy take of, like, high action versus, like, a certain semblance of reality. And then you flip the page, and then you're dealing with something supernatural, and it's completely deadly and spot on. And it just is the juxtaposition that, like, hooked me on this book in the first place, and it just kind of brought me right back into digging on it.
Well, the last issue was basically setting up for this issue, and I think that's kind of where people get lost in this, is they expect... I don't know, I've always felt like this series kind of drags a bit, and then all of a sudden they'll have an issue or two that is just amazing. And so, I don't know. I can see why a lot of people have dropped it, but I like it.
No, I hear you, and it definitely does have its slower issues, but when this book is on, it's on, and it's just doing something. Compared to a whole bunch of other books that play the whole supernatural realm, I feel like this book pegs something about the way that they use magic and the otherworldly stuff and interplay it with everything that just no other book is doing.
What I like about this is this could easily take the supernatural element and turn it into a comedic device. You could see it heading in that direction, but it's taken very seriously. The comedic devices in this are within the characters themselves. Instead, you really feel like the magic is deadly. They remind you of that constantly throughout it, and that's what I like. I think a lot of TV shows that are supernatural tend to not do that very well.
Funny.
And so, no, I like that element of it, and I like the confrontation that's going to take place in the next issue.
Totally, yeah. So,
thumbs up. I read the first trade, and it was fine, but...
Well, it's no Coffin Hill, so, you know.
There you go.
If they had Coffin Hill's art in this, it would be one of my favorite books.
Huh.
I would say one of the problems I do have with this is the art does seem a bit hurried from time to time. Like someone had it, like it was due tomorrow, and someone was like, "Oh shit."
Funny.
All right, it's getting late, obviously for me. So
the other book I got was FBP.
Wow.
And yet another one of those damn covers that they tell the story on the front cover. Art change in the book now. New permanent artist is on the book. Alberto Ponticelli, which I'm a huge fan of his. I loved him on Dial H. I loved him even more on Frankenstein. Agent of Shade. He's taking over as the artist in the book. I like the first 3 pages best. The first 3 pages, the inking is done by the cover artist. The cover artist Nathan Fox does the inking, and then Ponticelli does the inking himself for the rest of it. And I think Ponticelli needs a inker. Not that I hate his artist, but I like his art better with somebody else inking his work. This is like a 2-part story telling us about Cicero, who's kind of the brainy head of this little branch of FBP, and it's kind of cool seeing his back history of how he got himself involved in the organization and whatnot. It's got some college antics that go on that look like they're going to go awry, playing with physics in a way that they probably shouldn't. And we also find out that he was early on in his academic career was introduced to Adam's father's fringe work, which of course has been kind of a reoccurring theme throughout the book all the way along. Issue 14. Still enjoying it. Still think it's an interesting book. And that is it for me. I'm dry.
I have a few that I haven't read yet, but
Do all those Vertigo cover pages start with a flashback?
These 2 did. I don't know if the rest of them do.
Maybe that's just a coincidence. That was those 2.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll let you know at the end of the month when I get the rest of the darn things. Because I got a few more books that are Vertigo, and we'll do that, and I don't like it. I mean, I get the idea of it, but right. I don't know.
Sounds like a good idea on paper, but when I looked at the covers in the comic book shop, they didn't make me want to read, and they would kind of visually bounced me away.
Right, for sure, and they do. So I don't know. That was. I mean, it's different, so maybe that might convince somebody to pick it up because it's different, but also frustrating too, I think. So as far as that goes.
And not necessarily jump on issues or anything.
No. Well, this one you could have. I mean, because you're learning about this guy in his life, so you could read that issue. The Coffin Hill one, hell no. You're right in the middle of everything that's going on in it. There'd be no way. But yeah. So yeah, those are odd covers.
Bring back Collider.
Yeah, no kidding. Still like the title of that better. That's crap that they had to cave to that, but I understand not wanting to be tied up in litigation, waiting to see whether or not you could win it or not, and not have to pay somebody money because you kept using it. Makes sense to change it. So,
right.
Vertigo books that were announced at New York. Gail Simone is going to finally be writing a Vertigo book.
That's promising.
Let's see. I can't remember what the premise was for it. I don't remember. It's called The Clean Room or something like that, is what it's called. Which sounds really eerie in a sense. And then another Tim Seeley book was announced about a child actress who grows up and has some paparazzi issues that turn into cult type things and the occult and worshipping pulp culture and that sort of thing. So be curious to see where both of those go.
Is that one called Heavy Handed?
Isn't that this book?
Yes, I haven't read Pop. How is that?
This is old. It's interesting. It's going to be a 4-issue mini, but that premise you just described, just take out child actress for pop idol grown in a test tube, and that's the book.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It just...
Is Tim Seeley getting overextended? He's got a book at Dark Horse, 2 at DC, an Image book. I think he still works on something else for Dark Horse, or I don't know. And now Vertigo.
Yeah, he writes quite a bit.
What did he write that was good? That's getting him all this work.
Revival.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And there are lots of people.
Who, good too, in my opinion.
There are lots of people who like hack and slash.
Right.
Yeah.
Hack and slash he's doing on and off.
There's people who read Xenoscope, but it's just...
At least who buy the issues and put them in bags.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, I don't know if they're reading them exactly.
Hey now. At any rate, I like Revival. I think he did a great job in Revival. Grayson seems decent. I don't know how much that's his work and how much that's his co-writer's work. I don't mind his issues of Eternal. That seems...
That's
okay,
fair, yeah.
So...
It's doing a lot of stuff.
He's become a decent writer. I'm not sure about Sundowners, but...
Yeah, that's an odd book. We'll see where that really goes to and how that sticks. I don't know. But, yeah, there's some other independent type stuff announced, too, about not sticking with me right at the moment. So, because it's getting late. Because, of course, we've now been on for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
As we tend to do when it's us.
We just passed the
America asked if we're going for the record.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, Sergeant America's asking if we're going for the record. Of course, I think we spent 45 minutes just talking about Batgirl, so there you go. And probably a half an hour complaining about how the other medias besides comic books are wrecking our comic books. So there you go.
That's an important issue.
Those are. They have affect me on a daily basis, damn it. Taint my Wheaties when I eat them in the morning. Anyway, so I appreciate y'all being here and talking comics with me. Great group of guys to talk books with and whatnot. Lots of comments in the comment section. I probably should have read them off, but I was starting to get worried that the show would go on even longer. So check out the comments. All right. T had lots to say about the books and whatnot, so appreciate her hanging. We just need to get her on the show because she's obviously here. She's reading the same books we're reading, and I bet she's probably reading something different. But we can get her on, along with some of the other people. Some of the other people need to get a hold of me so we can get you on the show. We'll figure out.
Ninja would be good.
I invited him on, and he made some comment on the fact he didn't think he could do Hangouts. So I need to talk with him a little more and figure out what that's about, because I know he reads a lot of the independent books and.
Don't worry, it's not easy to figure out, but once you do, it's not bad.
Right. So we'll have to try and walk through it.
It may depend on his Wi-Fi, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a learning curve to it, but once you get past...
Well, that's true. If you don't have a decent internet connection, then it can get dicey. That is one thing that there's no way of correcting that. So, but anyway, great show. Love talking comic books with you guys. For you people who watch this movie plus length version of the show, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your comments. And come back again next week because we'll do it all again then. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.